Good evening and welcome to the Brockton Public School Finance Subcommittee meeting. Today is Thursday, May 14, 2026, and it's currently 7:35 p.m. We are gathered at the Arnold Theater, 135 Belmont Street, Brockton, Massachusetts, 02301. In addition to being here, the public can also view this meeting via Comcast Channel 8 and 1071 HD version and online via this link, www.youtube.com/TheBrocktonChannels. I do call this meeting to order and will establish a quorum. Ms. Oliver? Here. Ms. Centello? Here. Mr. Rodriguez? Here. Ms. Isaac? Here. And Mr. Pina? Here. And myself as the chair and the superintendent also in attendance. Agenda item number 3 is the FY27 budget presentation and discussion, which will be led by our superintendent. Before you begin, I know I had invited our city CFO, who is in attendance tonight. If the members later on have any questions or anything that you need answers to, he's available and willing to provide some answers. Superintendent, take it away.
All right, good evening, everyone. So I just wanted to give you an overview of the new sections that you have in front of you. So section 3 is the presentation that I provided on Tuesday night. That has also been posted to our website under my updates on the school committee page, I believe, but that is posted there in its entirety. Section 4 is, as requested, the budget sheets with the totals at the bottom. What is not indicated here, however, is all of the changes and adjustments that need to be made based on some of the questions or errors that you may have brought up at last meeting. Oh, thank you. I did want to just give some context to some of the errors that we have identified in the budget that were provided. So just to give you a timeline, back in 23 or 24, as you all know, all of the staff salaries were in one giant line item. So we are still in the process of breaking that down. So I think the first year before I arrived, they had broken it down into big buckets, but it was still pretty aggregated. Last year in our budget book, we were able to break it down more by groups and by locations. However, now we are trying to break it up even further so that we are actually fully leveraging our Munis system and utilizing it to automate some of the things that we have been doing manually for so many years.
Do you have the extra, Melinda?
I don't have a packet, Mrs. Campbell. I didn't get a packet. All I have is this.
Oh, it was sitting here. We thought we had an extra. It was here.
Okay. Thank you.
Take 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Thank you. All I have is 3.
No, somebody take 2. Just 4 and 5.
Perfect. So this is okay.
Because I gave you this already. I'll take this.
Okay.
I think you're just missing tab 3.
First one.
No, there's a packet. I put it in here.
Thank you.
Oh, I don't know.
It's fine.
You're good? Okay.
Sorry about that.
So as I was saying, one of the things that we have identified as we're breaking down the salaries further is that a huge project that we've already started working on, but that is really going to be instrumental next year, is implementing position control numbers in our Munis system. Because as we've been breaking it down further, we've gotten to a point where now the level of specificity should be such that when we're pulling our Munis report, it is identifying immediately where the location is, the FTE count, the FTE fraction count in the case that there is a position that is shared by 2 schools. Unfortunately, however, in what we have before you, that isn't always indicated, and we have to adjust it manually. But we have started the position control process, and you will be able to see greater specificity and greater accuracy as we move forward. But again, this is just part of the process that we're going through as we're still trying to pull apart that giant salary line from several years ago. So for example, one of the questions that was asked was, why are there 4 administrators at the Brookfield? When looking into that further, there are not 4 administrators at the Brookfield, there are 2. However, what had ended up happening is there had been a position that was actually of a person who had then is now in an administrator's position in central office. And while they have been moved to central office, they work in central office, their salary is accurate, they were still coded at Brookfield. Another situation that occurred is that the other position was actually a teacher who is at Brookfield. So it had, for whatever reason, been captured in that line. So again, this is where we're going and manually fixing these things now. But as we move forward, we'll be able to create position control numbers that are assigned to positions that then will follow the positions. What's been happening here, which is not unusual for school districts, I saw this in my last one too, is that positions have been traveling with people or not. So sometimes positions evolve over time, and then they'll get moved from one place to another, it'll get restructured, and you almost need to know all of that history in order to know what happened and why it is where it is. That's not how it should be. It should be position control numbers that have many different identifiers that are aligned to the DESE end of year report, and that when you download it, it captures everybody in the right location and by FTE, but also it then helps as we are moving forward with projections, because then you can also determine what the projections are going to be more moving forward in a more accurate way. So another thing that you all had identified was that the school committee line was higher. And that is because, again, without those numbers, when we were doing a 2% increase for a certain group of personnel, it also got captured for school committee too, when it shouldn't have. I think that happened to my salary too. It happened to my salary last year as well. So these were things that we have been, again, fixing manually, but next year you will be able to see that it happens more automatically. I will now move to section 5. So the changes and adjustments that we are making, and even like the one that I just talked about the Brookfield, you won't see it changed here. All you will see is that now the totals have been added, but you will see that in the next version. Section 5 is all of the responses to the questions that I have received thus far. So the questions that you asked on Tuesday night, or questions that you all sent to me since then. And again, this will be the same process that we follow for any additional questions. And so normally I would put it in a presentation so we could all look at it. I will post these online as well, and I know you received them electronically, but we didn't have time to put them in a PowerPoint because the turnaround time for this meeting was a little faster than we'd expected. So I'm just going to go through the questions and the answers, and then we can discuss as you choose. So one of the questions that was asked was what is included in the re-engagement instructional supplies line, because it was to make it so high as compared to some of the other schools. So that line was at $15,340, and it was capturing supplies for the restorative justice team and the Pathways program. However, that line has only been expended by $1,595 this year, so we are actually revising that budget amount to be a requested $2,000 instead of the $15,000. So again, you'll see that in the next version that you have. There was another question about programs that we can bring in to lower the cost for our out-of-district students. So in here, and I won't read the entire thing, but there's an explanation of how we determine where our students are placed. There has been analysis over the years to try and bring more students back. And I believe that is also why we have the Brockton Therapeutic Day School, was in an effort to bring back students who would otherwise be served out of district. Right now, we have 106 students who are currently out of district. We have 29 in residential placements, 56 in day schools, and 21 in collaboratives. If you break down that same amount by grade level, 31 are in elementary school and 75 are in secondary. Tuition cost averages, which are set by the state, are for residential about $863 a day, for day schools $567 a day, and for collaborative schools $524 a day. This does not include transportation. Obviously, some of these funds we receive back in our circuit breaker, but that is also why we are always advocating for a greater reimbursement to our circuit breaker. Currently, Brockton Therapeutic has an enrollment capacity of 132 students, but I believe that's based on size. It is not based on staffing. So there is a plan to explore enrolling more students, but that would require adding 2 additional classrooms at the middle school and high school levels. So that is something we are exploring, again, to serve more students. However, the students that are currently at residential day and collaborative schools would not be captured under that school as per their IEPs. The IEP process, every year there is a process by which students who are out of district are reviewed to determine if it continues to be the most appropriate environment, or if there's a way that they can either return to a lesser restricted environment or return to the district. So students who do demonstrate significant progress and readiness to return to the district programming are transitioned back with transition plans in place. Students in residential placements may also step down into a day school placement, so they wouldn't most likely come immediately back to us, but again, a lesser restrictive environment for a student who has residential would be a day school placement. So again, these are determined every year through the IEP process. And feel free, if you would like to interrupt me to ask questions, or if you'd prefer to do it at the end, that's also fine. Sure.
On the therapeutic day school. Obviously, as you know, I took a tour today, and some of the, I don't know if everyone fully understands why the students are there, but are at these day schools, and so these are some kids that need the most help. So that's why the cost is so high. But in the case where the IEPs may just be for, they could be better served at home, have we looked at using the BVLA to service them instead of sending them out?
So we have utilized BVLA for other situations in which a student may be at home. However, for students that are on residential placements, it's generally because they have IEP requirements that are
right. I don't mean those individuals. I mean the other portion of the bucket of students.
I could certainly look into that.
Because I just looking at the deaf or hard of sight, I think that some of those placements, which I know we have a lot of, I know there's a few of those teachers that teach at those individual places actually live in the community. So even if we were to hire some of them and bring them in, but also use BVLA and some of the programming that they have to be able to service those students, I just didn't know.
So a residential placement isn't necessarily their home residence.
Right. No,
yeah. Oh, okay. So, right. But it also is an additional level of support.
Correct. Yeah.
That for a virtual learning environment would be very difficult to provide.
Right.
And those teachers would not necessarily be equipped to provide it, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like residential is the most restrictive and would be
Correct.
like an
Which I didn't mean those individuals.
Yeah.
I meant the less restricted students, I should say.
So students in out-of-district placements for other needs. Again, I could look at specific ones, but when we were looking into this, even to answer this question, I don't know that they would be appropriate for BVLA, but I could certainly check again.
Just thinking of ways on how we can keep the costs down and utilize what we currently have. Thank you.
All set? Ms. Oliver.
Piggyback on that conversation, I think I might be the right person to have that conversation. The fact that as a parent who worked 3 jobs and I had a child that was at home and I had to pull him out of Brockton school system to be in a day program for 40 hours a week so he can get OT, speech, and everything else that he was being failed here about, 5 years ago. It's very hard to ask a parent to stay home when the school district is supposed to basically give them an education. And also in a residential facility, which I've also worked at, it's very hard when you have about 20 or more, individuals with different disability to bring an educator in there and then expect that child to get the best education service. That's also very difficult. So that's something that, we are supposed to be, under the law, give them the best education. I think just bringing the burden on a family, on a parent to stay home and not work because we want to cut costs, that's not where we need to cut costs in the SPED department.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, we can proceed.
All right, so the question about the 4 administrators at Brookfield, again, that is 2 administrators. This will be changed to be more accurate. Again, the number that represented the 2 additional administrators, one was for our director of professional development and school improvement, and the second is for actually a teacher who is at the Brookfield. So they will be moved into appropriate lines. Overtime costs for school police. So I did send this to all of you. Oh, actually, I don't have a link for this one. But we did look into the overtime costs for our school police. And one of the things that is definitely contributing to the fact that overtime costs for school police are so high is the fact that we have been operating with far less staff in school police officers as compared to what we should have, which is something we were all aware of. I know we had budgeted for additional positions and weren't able to hire. Currently, we do have 3 people who are going through our academy, so they will be joining us, but last year, effectively, we had 6 school police patrol officers, 2 school police supervisors, and 2 Brockton police liaisons. And so there were 4 additional positions that definitely impacted overtime costs, one being on an admin leave, one being on light duty, waiting to return to full duty status. Another one was on IOD for 3 months, and then another one entered in mid-year because they were in field training. So again, this contributed to our overtime costs. However, as staffing levels are getting higher, we do anticipate that our overtime costs will become lower. What is included in the $115,000 for graduation? So BHS for FY26, so this is just the running cost right now, and I've listed the different costs. Everything from traffic cones and golf carts to the diplomas themselves to programs, the tent rental, sound systems, certificates, plaques. Also, the yearbooks come out of this line. Tables for security check, and our fire and police detail. For Edison, since that hasn't happened yet, I gave an estimate of what it was last year, which was $18,000, and that was water, food for the day of graduation, again, fire detail, police detail, yearbooks. These amounts actually do not account for the additional compensation that is paid to teachers who are working graduation.
Ms. Oliver.
Quick question for the breakfast. Why can't we use our culinary students to save costs there?
I can certainly look into it. I don't know that I actually don't know how, it's a Chartwell's breakfast. Yeah, I can certainly look into that. Yeah,
because that amount is a little bit insane. For the yearbook, how much is the yearbook? I mean, are we still paying for that? I mean, we all have to pay our own yearbook.
Chartwell, see. I can look into that as well.
I know they started doing COVID. I think that was something they did to pay for the yearbooks. But maybe we can see like maybe families that need like waivers and stuff like that and very like unable to afford it. Maybe we can do that way instead of buying one for every student. Yes, I'm all set.
Mr. Pina?
Yeah. So are these estimates or are these what was spent last year?
So we have the Edison is what was spent last year. This is what the FY26 is what has been spent thus far this year.
And what about Promise?
So Promise has its first graduation this year. So we have money allotted for that.
All right, sorry.
Yes.
So, but it's not allotted in
It's
the
not in
budget?
here. No, we have money set aside because this is altogether only, not only, but we do have some money left over. We may have the Promise captured somewhere else.
BBLA's in there too?
So actually, I don't know, I can find out.
Are these plaques, are they like from Trump or something? They're coated in gold?
I don't.
$1,000 for two of them?
You want them?
I'm saying, I would like one, sure. I hope so. This is what we've already spent. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm. These are the current purchase orders.
Golf carts. So we got 2 new golf carts. Yeah, we have our own, but why would we buy 2 more?
I'll have to look at that exact purchase order.
Or else we can just borrow them from the golf course. I'm just saying, if we need more. No, we'll rent them. We'll borrow them from the golf course. That's ours. Okay, yeah. And that's,
I mean, we do, I see that there are golf carts that are used at the high school campus, like not just at graduation. So they may have come out of this line, but be purchased for other use. But I can find out more.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Azak?
Mr. Pina actually touched base on some of my questions.
Okay.
I was going to question the golf carts. I mean, we do try to help our students. I know we've tried to help them keep the costs down with the yearbooks. I mean, but some of these costs, I mean, I was going to question the plaques too, like what are these plaques made out of bronze? So that right there for 2 plaques, I'm sure we can cut costs right there. And tables for security, I mean, we have tables. Again, I believe what you just mentioned, maybe items are just being put under here. We have tables within the district.
So these are also the purchase order requests that are coming through. So again, I'm just pulling the detail, and we can certainly ask more. And this is also the benefit of the warrant system, is that now you get to see these in real time as they're coming through and ask those questions.
Because I know we have to have a certain amount of police presence, but do we utilize our safety security? Like, it's just, you know, $11,000. I understand a police presence is going to be a little different, given the crowds that we have at the graduation. We have, you know, that's quite a few thousand people that are there. But I just wanted to see if there's ways, you know, fire department, 4,000. I mean, this is just for the high school.
Yes.
Graduation. It's definitely an eye-opener seeing it broken down. And same with the $8,000. I mean, absolutely, we should have a breakfast for our seniors, but our students did an amazing job at the JROTC dinner, and I think they will do an amazing job at the breakfast at a quarter of the cost.
Absolutely. I mean, we can certainly look into that. I do imagine that some of those students would be graduating. So I don't know. Also, again, logistically, I mean, I don't know. I'll be honest, if I was a senior, that is not what I would want to do. But we could certainly look into it.
Because my
bad
question,
ideas.
So we have the Balfour diplomas, which are at $14,000, but then the Jones supply for certificates, the paper cover. So that's another $9,000 on top of that. For the diplomas and the certificates together. So is that the actual folder and then the diploma's in it? So that's two separate.
And this could also be, again, under graduation, could be covered the ones for scholarships. Like, again, it's because, again, we don't have everything broken down exactly. We do pull out of like a graduation line for things like that, so.
Okay.
All set.
That wasn't pretty raised his hand, so we're good.
Ms. Oliver.
Quick question on the Brockton Police, the 11,000.
Uniform, undercover, and K-9. How many are we using doing that for detail, and how many of our officers are we using? I just feel like,
I can find out.
yeah, because that's a little bit, and I mean, why are we paying for uniform for the Brockton Police? Don't they have a uniform already to wear?
No, uniformed police officer.
Meaning we have
Oh,
uniformed
I'm about to
officers,
say, but
we
that's
have
still-
undercover officers, we
It's
have
gonna be a
K-9
long night with this
detail.
one. Okay, I'm just trying to say 11,000. I mean, yeah, can we figure out how many police officers is there? I know that we definitely want to have safety at all time, because we never know, somebody's gonna be wild and crazy on that day, and I think we have family, we have kids, so we definitely want safety. But 11,000, like, how many of our school police we have now with the 3 that just graduated or just got sworn in?
Sorry, say that again?
How many school police do we have now with the 3 that just got sworn in the other night?
I believe
16 now?
14?
Still have 14?
14.
With the 3?
No, we had 14 budgeted, sorry. So we have, sorry, it's in the budget
Okay.
book. No, we had 9
9,
active
but then we
this
got
year.
this.
3
So we had 9 and we got, okay.
Yeah. But not all, I don't believe all are active.
How many you guys got?
Thank you.
13 active. That's including the 3 that just graduated? So it goes to 16.
Yeah.
No,
it's
that
13
would be
total.
13 total.
13 total.
Yes.
So we're still short. Okay.
That's fine. Yeah, I was trying to figure why this is not like a amount that goes on the Schedule 19 as a chargeback and just us putting, okay, I'm done, yeah.
Mr. Pina.
And we have a great CTE program. I really wish we would utilize them a little bit more with this, with the programs and even the printing of the diplomas. I understand the little hardcover things that you get with the diploma, but I mean, you're looking at that's a lot. So 5,000 for the programs, 9,000 for the recognition papers and covers, and then another, I guess, 1,000 for the 2 plaques for 2 students. That just seems like a lot. I just hope that we could look at ways on how to use the great programs that we have already.
All set? I do have follow-up questions for the estimated for the police officers. Does that include our officers, or is it just the additional?
I don't know.
Okay. If you could find out, that would be great.
It says Brockton PD.
Yeah, but our police officer could still fall under. Yes.
I would say if you look at what we spend at football games on police officers and those details, they go to the captains and lieutenants because they're the ones that want the easy details, and that's why it costs so much more. And we don't have enough of our own police officers to cover an event that size. So I guarantee you that's Brockton and those are captains and lieutenants.
Any other questions? Ms. Azek.
So one other question I had is the breakdown of the landscaping. That's awfully high for one day, but I do know they do reuse the potted plants at the different ceremonies. So I do know that they use some of the flowers, but still, almost $4,500 for landscaping. So I'm just curious to see a breakdown of it, but I've seen some of the floral pieces that they have. They do take them onto the stage for other graduations throughout the summer. They do take them to some of the schools. but seeing these, like, just, I see a line item, but I'd like to see things broken down on some of them rather than just.
Well, I just want to say, too, that this is the most broken down I think you guys have ever seen it, right? So, but yes, absolutely, we can break it down further.
All right, any other questions? We may continue.
All right, how much do we get for earmarks? The earmarks have been listed here. Davis School earmark there have been a few for $50,000 each in FY26, 25, and 24 for the basketball courts. Brockton District Security upgrades for $150 in FY25. The Raymond School Tom Ross Field improvements in FY25 for $50,000. There is an additional earmark that we have that is not listed because it's currently embargoed. So as shown over the last 3 fiscal years, we've consistently been receiving earmarks to support the Davis School basketball project improvements.
I thought there was an earmark for the Little Red Schoolhouse to be repaired.
That got stripped.
I'm sorry?
They took that back.
Who's
Governor.
they?
State.
What's that? Continue.
I yield.
So we have 2 service animals within the district, as was mentioned, because that was a question, one at Downey and one at Brockton Therapeutic Day School. So this was the result of an effort from 2022 from former Superintendent Thomas. And so the Downey, the school adjustment counselor at Downey has Hazel, and at that point had completed the extensive training and preparing to work to support the students. The district, as part of that arrangement, the district did assume responsibility for financially supporting the dog's care and ongoing needs, including veterinary visits, food, and other dog-related expenses necessary to maintain Hazel's health, training, and ability to serve as a school-based emotional support dog. The notification is included. As I mentioned, Brockton Therapeutic Day School did add a therapy dog last year. It's owned by the guidance counselor, and the dog is certified and trained, but there is no cost to the district. The Lisa Foster Street, there was a question about if that should be non-net.
I have a question.
Yes, Ms. Centeno.
Sorry. Not sorry, but can you tell us how much is the cost for Hazel? What's the yearly cost?
It's $1,500 a year.
Thank you. A year.
Yes.
It's cheaper than my dog.
Thank you.
Yes. So the Lisa Foster Street should actually be falling under non-net school spending, and should have been for the last 7 years. So we will be putting that under our non-net school spending request.
Mr. Pina,
What is that amount? Is that the 400,000? And so if that's that 400,000, does that help?
that's the 170.
Oh, 170.
Yeah.
So that'll give back at least one position. Okay, thank you.
Is there a better rate for Yonder pouches or other competitors? So in addition to the pouches, the schools do need several unlocking devices included in the quotes if the model is similar to Yonder. It would also mean 2 different systems for cell phones, which could have an impact on both efficiency and implementation, because if we were to switch away from Yonder, we would need to think about the implications of that. That could really be considered a sole source material. So year 1 in FY25, there were 3,700 purchased for BHS. Year 2 in FY26, there were 1,735 purchased for BHS, and Promise received 200. And then year 3 for FY27, BHS is requesting 1,000, and Promise is not purchasing for FY27. We have requested quotes of 1,000 from not just Yonder, but also from Quiet Case and New Case vendors, and I actually did receive those quotes today. And New Case is sending a sample to us. But again, before transitioning, we would want to determine how exactly that would work. We have also been exploring the recent AGO grant, but Unfortunately, we did look into whether we could use the grant. You can't use the grant for places that are already doing cell phone. Yeah, so that's unfortunate. We tried to see if you could do it as if we wanted a few at middle schools in case we needed them for like consequences. That's also not allowed. And then there was another area that we tried to explore as well about whether or not we could utilize the AGO grant, but at this point it doesn't seem that we're eligible for it.
Before you move on, Ms. Oliver.
Do we have a number how many Yonder bags we have replaced? And if we're getting payments for the damage?
I can find out.
That's it.
Yeah.
Mr. Pina.
Have we looked at the outcomes here, and have we seen if the use of these pouches is actually working the way we think it is?
I believe so. I know that some of the data that we have looked at, that we've talked about as a committee, again, you can't always make a one-to-one correlation, but we have had the rates of issues at the high school, or discipline, or issues that may have been occurring previously has lessened. I know we had looked at our discipline rates and our suspension rates recently, again, across the district, and those have fallen. I will say, as I think one of the most important things is the testimony from those at the school, from the school leaders, and I do believe it is a successful program, and I believe we've actually been one of the models for the state, and one of the ones that, of course, maybe we started a little too early, now we can't get the grant, but I would say that we have certainly been one of the leaders in this area, and I believe it is because it has demonstrated improvements.
Do we have a list of disciplinary actions on students that put in a phone that isn't really their phone, and then they actually use their phone?
So I do see the incident reports that come in, and yes, there is discipline imposed.
And do you think that the discipline is more the cause rather than the pouch? Because the pouch may have been the catalyst, but now the discipline is what prevents the students from continuously using their phone?
I don't know if I understand the question, but what I will say is that there are certainly times where a student will use the pouch for a dummy phone or something like that. But one of the things that I've heard consistently is that if they are doing that, sometimes at least the benefit that comes out of it is that they're then not using it in class, that their goal is to keep it stowed so they are not, and part of the reason ultimately that is then meeting a goal of making sure we're not distracting from education in the classroom. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I don't know that,
Well, I guess what I meant is, do we really need to continue with the Yonder pouches if the discipline itself is actually the catalyst to now the drop in the use?
I mean, that's a great question. I would say that that could certainly be a conversation that we have.
No more questions? Can you move on?
So I did include a link for the maintenance line of $185,000. It is currently at $101,000. There is a buffer for any circumstances that may arise, but we could decrease the budget for next year since we are only at 101 right now. So if the committee did want to do that, we could certainly do that. And I can go back and pull up the link here too. But when you look at the maintenance line, it is a lot of like spare parts or things that need to be repaired or replaced.
Understood that obviously giving back money is always good to use it in other places, but do you think that we could use that to possibly upgrade and purchase another lift? to actually use it for some capital improvement with their work in there. So we make it into if you don't use all the money that's allotted, then you can put it back into the actual garage itself.
Absolutely. If that is what the committee would prefer to do, is keep that line at 185 for that purpose, we could.
Any other questions? We can move on.
What is listed on page 65, which was the leases that you had asked about. One of them is a lease for our postage machine, which is at the Crosby Building. Of course, that is only a small portion of it. The other also includes the settlement payment of a lease that was outstanding for this year. We are still working with our attorney to figure out, because it hasn't, we thought it had been posted, but so we aren't sure if it just carried over to next year as an error, or if that payment has actually gone through or not. So that may come off. But we're waiting to hear from our attorneys. What amount of postage are we utilizing? So we do not use mass mailings as much as has been done historically. Again, many communications are now sent via Parent Portal, Infinite Campus, Student Messenger, Microsoft Teams. However, there are some letters that are sent to families that are homeschooled, live paychecks that may be sent to home addresses as well, accounts payable checks that are mailed out, part-time employees that do not have a permanent school location to enter office or who are contracted and may also receive those by mail.
You put your hair over the microphone.
Oh, sorry.
That's all.
Sorry. So the Office of Exceptional Learners mails about 3,300 IEPs to families per year, which we are required to do. BPS sends credit recovery and summer school correspondences out to approximately 500 students and families 6 times per year. In FY25, we loaded the postage machine with $49,000 for stamps. For FY26, we've loaded it with $50,000, and we have not yet pulled the meter, but we will pull the meter to get our current usage to let you know how much it is.
Ms. Azar?
So on the page 65, so it says 172,000. What is the actual lease amount, and what is the
post? It's
the one with the lease for 172K?
Yes.
It says building rent / lease. So what is the actual lease amount, and what is I don't want to call it a penalty that we're paying?
The lease amount only was. Hold on. Sorry. Loading. I know the lease amount was over 100 for the actual
and that's the lease for the actual postage machine?
No, for Belmont Street. But I have the invoices, sorry, for the postage.
All right, because it's saying postage, so that's what's throwing me off.
No, it's both of them are put together.
Okay,
Yes.
Belmont and the postage machine. Okay.
Correct, yes. And let's see. So like the lease for that, what's it called? The postage machine, for example, from June to September was $4,900. So, but I don't know if that includes the stamps or not. I'll have to find out.
And
So
the lease for Belmont?
That was over 100. I don't know the exact amount.
Okay.
So the total the settlement agreement was, I believe, for $261. So I believe part of it has already been paid, and we're looking into how much more is owed.
Sorry, public can continue.
Okay, page 26, increase for schools committee. So again, that was an error and will be returned to 140 as it was this current school year. Storage containers, there were a total of 3 storage containers located at the Gilmore, Ornone, and Barrett Russell, which contains student furniture and miscellaneous materials. Facilities is revisiting to see if we can empty any or all of them. The monthly invoice to William Scotsman for these is $529 for all 3 for the monthly invoice. So we'll look into whether or not we can empty them.
Mr. Pina.
So obviously, we know that we have a plethora of storage containers all across the district. These are the only ones that we are currently paying for?
I believe so. I believe the other ones we own. Is that right? You all would know better than me.
I believe
we only have 3 that we're renting.
We have at least in my 2 schools, I have 3 that are empty. Why are we paying $529 a month when we have empty ones?
Where?
Interesting. Thank you.
Any other questions? I believe this is before our time.
I've asked the question, I've seen it. I don't know why it's not reallocated, but.
Any other questions? No. We continue.
Updated staffing information. It was noticed that there were employees listed who no longer work in the district, so I did send a new gross salary sheet that is just for our school year. However, you're always going to end up, any long list of employees is always going to include people who no longer work in the district because we have people who come in and out of the district all the time. I signed some resignations today or retirements today, so I don't know that that new list solves for that, but I did send it to, or it is attached into this document. Enrollment by school, I also linked that into this document as well.
Bro, wake up, man.
Mr. Pina.
There you go. Just a quick question. Why does South have so little students and Davis still has 8th graders and 7th graders and 6th graders?
It's a K-8 school. That's why.
That's good to know, but the South has 350 kids and has empty classrooms. You're complaining about not having enough room for elementary schools, and you keep 900 kids in a school? I don't understand it. Okay, I yield.
Well, how long has that model? Oops, sorry. How long has, I feel like for the longest time, I feel like David has been that way, right?
I can be very honest. When I first arrived, I think maybe there was a statement that I made at one point about it going to be a K-6. I know that was not a popular idea at all. Again, I think a lot of these things are very contextual, and so I have always left that conversation and all of that up to all of you. So.
Any follow-up?
Yeah, I'll follow up and say that I guess we can't complain about not having enough room for elementary if we know that we have 6 through 8 and in an elementary school as well as middle schools that are unbalanced and don't have the full capacity of students in it. That's all.
Any follow-up? Mr. Rodriguez.
I mean, this was prior to my tenure, but I don't know exactly when that happened. I mean, you have the Pluff. That was built as an elementary school and it's a middle school. So you got Ashfield. So, I mean, the decisions was made back then. I wasn't part of the committee. But that's something that through the superintendent and her team wants to take a look at that and make that recommendation of how to change that. Well, unless if the committee wants to, I don't want to say forcefully, but like go in that direction.
Ms. Oliver.
Well, if we decide to make that move, we got to make sure South is supported. We got to make sure there's enough educators there to support the amount of students that you want to move over there. So, I mean, I don't see why that can't happen. I mean, it's not that far from South. But it's something that definitely as a committee, talking to superintendent, we got to assess and look at it. But I do agree that certain schools, the amount of numbers of students they have there, but if you're going to move students around, we're going to need to support the school that they're going to. Thank you.
Mr. Pina.
Yeah, and I'll just reiterate the fact that if we had a capacity model for the schools, which I know when I went to East, there were 700 kids in the school. I know 700 is a lot, and I get that, but I think 550 to 600 is a good amount, and that would allow us to turn one of the middle schools back into an elementary school. We can have everything that you guys want and not have to worry about opening up a new school called the Howard. I yield.
Everybody's all set? Let me continue.
All right. So there's the average class size by school. So class sizes really vary by program. So if there are specific programs, obviously, that you would like to know class sizes of, but to find average class sizes at every school, again, that when you do pull that number, it doesn't really tell you, I think, what you're looking for. So if there is something specific you are looking for, definitely let me know. Address the 0 FTE totals that still had the dollar amounts next to them. Those were lines, so you'll see those on page 2, 3, 17, for example. So there are lines where we had cut positions, but the cut amount was based on the fixed salary that we use when we estimate. So for example, it would be like a $33,000 is the estimated salary that we would use for that position, but the projections were based on actuals. So when we eliminated the position, whatever that difference amount was remained. And so again, that's going to be part of the cleanup that happens. We will adjust it again manually for your next version, but that is part of the cleanup that will happen as we update the chart of accounts and implement position control. I did also, so you have the new version with footers that have the totals on it, but I also did link into this document the PDF version of it as well, because I know, Ms. Centello, you had asked for an electronic version of the print copy, not just the Excel sheet, so I sent that as well. Can the administration explain the rationale behind the the disparity in full-time equivalent staffing allocations for adjustment counselors and guidance counselors across schools? Is there a district-wide staffing framework, preferred student-to-student counselor ratio, or building-based standard being used to determine these allocations, or are they made on an ad hoc basis? So the school size is really central to our decisions, but programming and student need can also impact the number. For our elementary schools with more than 700 students, we have 3 school adjustment counselors. For other elementary schools that have under 700, we have 2. All of our middle schools have 2 school adjustment counselors and 1 guidance counselor, except for the PLOF that has a additional guidance counselor who is bilingual for their bilingual program. Brockton High has 2 SACs per house and 1 for the Bright program. They also have 16 guidance counselors separated by house and grade level. Promise has 1 SAC and 1 guidance counselor. Champion has 1.5 SACs, and BVLA has the equivalent of 1, but it is filled by 2 people. Edison had 1 full-time guidance and a part-time SAC. Re-engagement has 1 SAC and 1 guidance counselor that is shared with BVLA. So again, when we implement position control, you'll be able to see these numbers more accurately shown on the school pages, but that is generally how we place our guidance counselors and SACs. So it's based on student population, but also based on student programming need. There was a question about salary increases tied to George line items. Yeah, sorry. Anyway, over the year, we have been phasing out using kindergarten and bilingual lines since they are no longer required to be reported in those categories on the DESE end of year report. But these are actually some cleanup changes that will need to occur as we move all of them to regular teacher and special ed teacher lines under their respective schools. Also, the increase would be due to contractual increases under the recently negotiated contract, which includes COLAs and step changes.
Mr. Pina.
So, and I think you say it in the next, maybe one of the next ones down, but, so now, after this budget cycle, is everything now untwined?
Not really. I think it is going to be, unfortunately, because we have to, so implementing position control is a huge project. And in my last district, it took an entire year of building it out before we could even transition over to it. And it takes like the HR department, the finance department, so it ends up being a group project, and we have started it. But even so, once we do implement it, I think it will be much cleaner. And a lot of these errors that we're finding will be able to be cleaned up through that process. But I would not say by now it is, like, again, we're doing these things manually in this budget because we're still building out the position control.
So my concern is that, you know, when we're looking at a budget, we want to look at 3 to 5 years.
Right.
But so we're going to end up actually continue to compare apples to oranges because we're going to continue to have these questions. So I just want to make the point that this process has to start months in advance of when it did, because this right here, these questions and these answers are more insight than what we've had probably throughout the entire 4 months that I've been here. So I just would hope that we can look at that in the future.
Yes, absolutely. We will start the process earlier in coming years. So when I was here last year, we actually started even a little bit later than we are starting this year. And so I don't have much to compare it to, but yes, I recognize that we should start this earlier, and so we will do that next year. I am concerned, however, because I do believe that needs to be a collective effort. Like, we will certainly put forward our budget based on the governor's budget in February, but again, the one thing that I cannot promise we will solve for is any last-minute changes. So, for example, right now, some of the things that we're dealing with are because of changes that happened on April 30th. That would have happened, or I hope that wouldn't have happened if we had started in February, but I'm just saying that there might be parts of this that are out of our control.
I'll just add, as a data guy, for ease of view, if we were able to have the proposed, and when you're looking at the line items in the spreadsheet, the difference between last year and this year, but also your, I'll just call it a moonshot type of proposal, and then the proposal that's within whatever the conversations you've had with the city are. And I know that you've said that you don't want to be able to do that, or you don't want to do that because it's frowned upon to do, but we as a school committee don't fully comprehend, because we're not in your position, what it actually takes to run these schools. We're looking at this as, okay, are there 10 kids in a class, or are there 25, or are there 30? And we're looking at are the outcomes being made? So in your priorities, I guess you can call it a priorities budget, but in that priorities budget would then be able to say, for us to reach the priorities that you set, this is the amount that we need. Because if you don't do that, then how can we lobby, fight, do whatever we do to get the kids what they need? Otherwise, all we're doing is setting a budget based off of what the city gives us and not based off of the outcomes that we want. So I strongly encourage for next fiscal year that we have that additional. I know it's a little bit more work, but sometimes it's good to dream.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I would agree with that. And I do hope that then, yes, the city would potentially honor it as well. I know we're in a tough position here because, you know, our aspirational budgets may not be able to match reality, and so that's the situation that we're in, but I would agree.
But so would you wouldn't change your 5-year strategic plan based off of that, though, because you're going to keep that plan? Mm-hmm. Or would you change your 5-year strategic plan based off of what the realities of the budget are?
I think it has to be both. I mean, yes, I think you make a strategic plan that outlines your goals and your North Stars, but I do believe that, you know, the same way we make SMART goals in our evaluations, we want it to be an attainable goal. So we want to articulate something that, yes, is both aspirational and attainable. So I think it has to be a mixture of both.
Thank you.
Ms. Azak.
It's okay. I'll hold off till later. Thank you.
Ms. Oliver.
I do appreciate that, Superintendent. I don't think it's an aspiration. I think it's what it is due to our students. I think that is the money that the state has basically allocated and said that belongs to our students. So I don't think it's a dream. I don't think it's a pipe dream. I think it's reality that I do hope that next year we do end up starting early and you do put a budget that basically what the state is allocating to us to educate our students, and let the ball fall where it needs to fall, because at the end of the day, we need to do what's best for our student. I think it's just very unprofessional and not even being respect your job for everything you're doing in your team, to basically giving you numbers at the last minute when another number was given a few weeks prior.
Oh, actually,
Ms. Azak.
I'm not going to hold off. So, again, very disappointed that now we're starting this tonight. We started it Tuesday night. We're starting it tonight. You know, I understand we don't have final numbers, but we could have had different versions of our budget. This is what we have in case, this is the budget, given what the governor put out. We're going to go by that, and then we have the worst case scenario, plan for it ahead of time. It's the 11th hour. It's May 14th. I'm reviewing these today. We just got these tonight. So I'm just going to hold off till a little later. There's so much to do to throw this at the committee at the 11th hour, when some of us have been asking for 2 months. So we can continue, but I know there's an important decision a little later that we're going to have to make, and I'm just very disappointed that this is where we are at this moment. And that's all I have to say for now.
All right, so there was a question about Brockton High School administrative model. So there is one principal, 2 associate principals of academics for the whole school, and then for each house there's 1 associate and 1 assistant. The school committee voted for these structural changes in June of 2022, and that change resulted in BHS moving from 1 associate principal of curriculum and instruction to 2 academic associate principals. The school-wide associate principal for culture and climate position, which was added in school year 21, was eliminated as a school-wide position. Instead, the dean's position was then reimagined at a lower salary and renamed associate principals of culture and climate. Assistant deans were renamed assistant principals. I'm sorry, I'm reading all this. This is all before my time. Therefore, the structure of BHS beginning in 2021 included the 11 administrators, 3 school-wide and 2 per house. The content administrators from 9 through 12 for ELA, math, science, social science support all 9 through 12 programming. These positions were BHS department heads in previous years. In the school year 22 redesign, they became coordinators with much of their responsibility at BHS, but for all high schools. As we look to consolidate and reimagine our alternative programming and assess needs based on enrollment in FY28, we anticipate administrative and staffing changes at the high school level. There was also a dean account that was remaining still. Most of the dean accounts had been collapsed, but this was a dean account that still had a projected number in it, but that staff member is actually at a different school. So again, this is part of the cleanup that we will need to do, as it should not be listed at the high school any longer.
Mr. Pina.
I don't understand. Where's the dean at then?
The dean is, so there is no dean. It is now a teaching position at a different school. So when the deans were eliminated, they were...
I thought there was one on the list.
There is one that's, it's the same thing as the Brookfield administrator where they're falling under there, but that is not actually their job or where they are. So they're being paid appropriately in the correct school. It's just being,
Pulled from
being pulled from, but it's still, for whatever reason, the other three were eliminated and moved appropriately, but that one, no.
Okay.
So the next question was about the $800,000 in funds and what we are planning to do with that. And my plan is to propose a spending plan for that $800,000 after the additional discussion and items have been considered tonight by school committee. I know there were some amendments that were proposed, and that all being said, I do think it is important, again, for us to be mindful of people who need to receive notifications earlier rather than later. And I can talk about this more later, but specifically for the BEA positions that need notification tomorrow, we eliminated 43 positions. 12 of them were already vacant. So it's really 31 positions, and we were able to, 25 of the people in those positions would be able to go bump into different positions. So the reduction in force letters that we would be giving would be for 6 people. There was a question about if we were to add that $800,000 back, would that then eliminate the need for those 6 positions? But it doesn't quite work like that because, again, it is a cascading effect where you eliminate certain positions and then have to fill other positions. I do definitely appreciate the desire to add positions back, and I'm certainly not advocating against it, but I do believe that, like Ms. Azak said, there are other districts who've known about their RIFs much earlier and notified people much earlier than even the deadline. I do think it's important for people to be able to plan, and always if you could bring positions back, that's wonderful, but I do think it would be my opinion that we should be respectful to the individuals and let them know sooner rather than later. I also don't want to be in a position where we believe we may get more from the city, and then be in a position where we're riffing mid-year. And also, I do know and appreciate that we have received the $800,000 additional. I would like to see it in the spreadsheet to see where exactly it's falling. I apologize if I'm distrustful of numbers right now, but I really need to see it, where it's coming from, where the numbers fall. And I think I will need that from now on.
Mr. Pina.
Yeah, so is there, I understand your recommendation, I understand the recommendation, I understand the consequences of our actions tonight and what we decide. But is there, and I'm not even sure if we need to go into executive session to have this discussion, but if we do, just stop me. But can we talk about the specific positions that you're looking to eliminate based on the need of the school? And what I brought up Tuesday, was the fact that when I asked you if eliminating certain positions, the associate vice principals, if we eliminate those positions, will they impact the progress we've made and bring us back in our test scores? And your response was yes, you're afraid that that might happen. So do you think that there are other positions? All the positions are important, and I understand that. But are there other positions that we can look at that are yeah, I can't even find a word to say less important or something like that.
So I hear what you're saying about prioritizing which positions. I don't remember saying specifically that the associate principals would be the ones to impact outcomes. I think I was speaking generally about RIFs in general. And that, yes, you can, I think we can always assume that, you know, reductions of personnel could potentially impact student outcomes. So yes, we could certainly look at which positions. I don't know the answer to the executive session question.
You cannot, we'll get into executive session. It's not posted.
Yeah. So am I able to ask a question as to why one position is chosen over another position, or is that not allowed to be asked right now?
I think that you can, if there's a certain criteria that's being used.
Right, because we're not talking about specific people, we're talking about positions, right?
So I can tell you the methodology that we went through. So we, for example, the associate principals, we were looking at the administrative structures at all of our schools to see, okay, kind of like the conversation with guidance counselors and SACs, how are we determining who has what? Or is it just an ad hoc decision? I think it shouldn't be an ad hoc decision, that we should be looking structurally at our school buildings to determine, based on student population and student need, what they require. So I think the associate principal position was in response to that, as we do have elementary schools that have more students and less administrators, to be very honest. The vacancies, those were ones that we already had vacant, but then there were other positions that we eliminated based on conversations with the school leaders, with the assistant superintendents, for those positions that have been difficult to fill or have been vacant all year, or that we have filled in some other way, positions that, again, given classroom walkthroughs and what we know to be our priorities, are the positions that we believe we could do without. So I think that was the methodology that we went through. So it wasn't done without input from those at the schools.
So I understand it's a trickle-down effect, because obviously what ends up happening is the low man on the totem pole is the one that gets bounced. So if you were to, I'm sure you have some type of formula in a spreadsheet where you delete a few numbers and then it'll tell you. But so if you were to look at, say, the language arts and
so actually I would go back to that. So it's not just as, I wish it was as simple as putting it in a spreadsheet. What you have to then do is determine who are the people who are impacted by those eliminations, and then what their licensure is, and then be able to put them in that position. So even the amount of savings that you can incur from position eliminations does have to be determined. If you're looking at actual savings, does have to be determined after you do both the eliminations and determine where people could potentially go and which eliminations you're doing. So it is a far more complicated process than just saying, okay, we'll take this one out and delete it and then have the new sum total at the bottom. It's not that simple, because the people who are being taken out of positions have different licensure and can bump into different positions based on seniority.
And mentioning licensure, so are we eliminating everyone that is not licensed right now?
Yes, for people who have, so we had already, I believe, posted those positions for those who have emergency licenses or on waivers. They have already received notifications. That's a process that we go through every year anyway, because we have to, by DESE requirement, to contact them, let them know you haven't made appropriate, advancement towards your license. We invite you to apply back again if there are vacancies next year, so there's a process we follow for that.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I might be wrong, but is Brockton one of the last or few middle schools that have languages?
I can't answer for all of them. I know that my child has languages, so I don't know. I would have to find out more.
Thank you.
Everybody is good? All right, we can proceed.
So this was the warrant question about how payroll comes in. And so, I don't know if you
that
want
was
me
my
to go
question.
through all
You can
this.
skip
Yeah, this
that,
was a
yeah.
warrant question, but it does just break down for you how warrants don't necessarily, when you get the payroll warrant, it won't necessarily pull out what those different stipends are. And so you may see bumps or even decreases that are based on things like grant payer stipends, coaching, extracurricular, intramural, additional pay. Yes, we definitely want to, again, be in a world where those things are broken down. I believe actually City Hall, on their checks, it is broken down. So that is an area of, when we make these improvements, I think will help with that process, because right now you can't determine, is it overtime? Is it a stipend? Is it what that bump could be coming from? Again, obviously, if you ask us about individual payrolls, we then look at it and can tell you. There was a question about Brockton Therapeutic and their instructional supply line. So I did link in the supplies that they've purchased up until this month. And it includes, typical supplies, binders, tape, pencil sharpeners, folders. I know that there had been a specific question about whether or not it is used for school store or PBIS. And so I can look into that further with the principal, but that's sort of what came back when we pulled the list of expenditures. These expenses also have fallen under the Amazon purchases that we'll be looking at to do more efficiently moving forward. So like some of the things like binders, tape, things like that, we'll be going through a different process with moving forward. So I say that because even though there's a decrease of 27%, there is a world in which they are receiving those materials bought wholesale in a way that's more efficient. So that's not to say they're going to go without them.
Before you move on.
I think for me, I really wanted to know that specific question about where is that fund then coming from and who is supplying for that? Because like I said, for those specific students, they do, I would say, most likely the incentive does motivate them to do well. And when I did do my tour, that store did not look pleasing to me, and I would like that their budget gets increased. So if you can give me the information, that would be great.
And again, we do have several schools that have stores like that. So, positive behavior incentive stores, and I can look into how they are purchasing those. My understanding is that it could be a combination of PTO funds, BEF funds, and instructional supplies, but I can look into it more specifically.
Mr. Pina.
On that, I was going to ask about the BEF and whether this could just be purchased through BEF funds, but on a larger scale note, do you believe, or have you had the conversation with our new procurement specialists, if we can actually realize those savings?
Yes.
So you believe that will?
So yes, he's actually gone through all of the Amazon purchases we have and has started to pull together and aggregate some of these purchases that we should be doing on a larger scale, and definitely believes that there are ways that we could be purchasing them that are cheaper than Amazon. In some cases, Amazon would be still the cheapest, but depends on the item, depends on the unit that we need, the delivery schedule, but there are areas where there are different providers that will come in and be less expensive.
I hate to go down the rabbit hole, and I'm not trying to, but when that happens and you buy in bulk, do we have the capacity in the warehouse to hold that material?
So one of the things that we did, for example, with the paper is we did 3 deliveries per year. So one of the things that we're looking at too when we do buy these wholesale is where they would be stored and if there could be a frequency of delivery, for example. Because some of them are being stored at the school right now as it is. So it may be preferable to the school if it is still, and if it is doable for us to have intermittent deliveries, we'd prefer to do that.
The yield.
Any other questions?
So East has the literacy block pilot program, and it was asked if the budget reductions would impact that. And it would not impact that. And the hope is that this program will be able to provide additional support to strengthen our literacy instruction at all of our schools, at all of our middle schools.
Okay.
Sorry, our middle schools.
That's a question.
My question was that, is it just at East or is it at all middle schools?
I don't know if it's at all middle schools now, but I think our goal is to expand it. Yeah, please.
Good evening, everyone. First, I want to give a shout out to East Middle School and some of the creative scheduling and resource use they've been doing this past year to implement a full and robust multi-tiered system of support in literacy. Other middle schools, I also want to give a shout out to all the middle schools because they've all been doing some creative thinking and work and focused effort on really ensuring that all students' needs are met. And so in what I've been able to see and what they've been living over at East Middle School, for example, is really thinking about how can they leverage the existing schedule, the existing expertise and knowledge of their staff to provide both what we would call, of course, everyone gets Tier 1 instruction, which is what everyone gets. It's the core experience, but leverage that expertise and knowledge to provide a more targeted experience for students. And again, wonderful, amazing aspects of all of what I just described are happening at all of the middle schools. East has really tried to formalize that, and so I've had the pleasure of sort of seeing what they've been doing and thinking about that.
Thank you. Ms. Cynthia?
I have a question. For that program, so we know that for the additional reading support, we have some students that are either on an IEP and receive that additional service. For this pilot program, are those students that are on an IEP, or are these those students that are kind of are in the middle? They don't, like, what type of students are actually taking opportunity in this program right here?
So students on IEPs that have goals related to reading are definitely receiving their services from an MSN, as would be moderate special needs teacher, which would be called for in the IEP. These would be students who don't have IEPs, and so it's really an effort to really target and skill build, identify the skills that are in need of some more support and some intervention, and then really progress monitor that to make sure that the intervention is shifting the skill set in the direction we hope for.
And so far, how is that going? Like, are they reported that this is actually working? We're seeing some improvement?
So the anecdotal information that's been shared to me from the leadership there is definitely that they are observing kids moving their skill sets. We have end-of-year data collection coming soon, and so we'll do a more formal look at how students have grown over the year, for sure.
Well, I appreciate that this is not going, this service will continue. If anything, we should expand it out all middle schools. But also, as far as budget, that this program will continue and is not going to impact or affect the budget. So I thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? We may continue.
So there was a question about East and Plouffe, how many licensed bilingual teachers we currently have, will any of the positions be cut, and will bilingual sizes get bigger? So at East we have 4 bilingual content teachers and 4 ESL. For Plouffe, 3 bilingual content teachers and 5 ESL. These staff members are licensed or working on a waiver and moving towards licensure. None of the positions noted above are being cut. The 2 bilingual positions on the list of cuts at Plouffe went unfilled all year. We do not anticipate that class sizes will get bigger, and we are monitoring it and will continue to monitor class sizes throughout the summer. Asked if we have enough reading teachers across the district, not just in elementary, but also in middle school. Our response is that the need for reading intervention is still greater than the available staff to provide it. However, we are seeing improvement at the elementary level, as we have noted previously. We do not have any dedicated reading intervention teachers at the middle school level, but as a note, we do have 20 middle school teachers participating in a Science of Reading professional development course, and we'll expand that in the fall. A question about bilingual math teachers to support students who need them. Again, the same for the same sort of answer for math as for reading. It has been extremely challenging to find licensed bilingual math teachers. We were attempting to address that through the ROPES program grant that we received, but that unfortunately was defunded this year. And so we were able to continue to implement, but at a much lesser level than we had originally planned. Another question was about PLUF was the SLD program, and if we're expecting more students to need that program. As spring IEP team meetings occur, the special education department is constantly monitoring and communicating the need for special education programming. As of today's date, there are incoming 6th graders slated for the program, and we intentionally did not cut an MSN educator at the PLUF school, knowing the needs of that particular program. Many of our schools.
Can we educate the community what the SLD program is? I'm not sure I'm sure a lot of people don't know.
Yes. Actually, to somebody else who wants better than me even to educate the community.
So how I understood it, do we not know?
You should go up there.
I mean, I can if you'd prefer.
I can Google it.
No, thank you. The professionals are here.
Hello again. I do not have degree and training and all of that in special education, so I'm sure there's probably someone in this audience who could do this better than me. So the SLD program, or Specific Learning Disability program, provides a higher level of support for students. Ideally, an SLD program is designed to provide flexibility so that students who need intensive support in a particular area get that intensive support, but there's also flexibility so that in other areas they can mainstream out into gen ed. And so it's important to have a program that structurally and staffing-wise has that flexibility to allow students to do that. So they're getting what they need in a very intensive way and supportive way, but are also not restricted and ending up in one place all day long and not being able to really grow some of those other strengths that they have.
I feel like at PLUF, though, how I understood it was mainly for the reading, but maybe that's something that we can look into it and then.
So I know Dr. LaBillois and Jamie Langley, who oversees the program, they aren't here tonight, but I can certainly ask them to provide greater information. I also don't have a special education license. I can speak better to our English learner programs, but we could certainly get more information.
And I was just going to add in response to what you just said, students in that program benefit from a highly structured, very routine-based reading specialized instruction, which is best delivered in, first of all, a very small ratio, but then also because it's so focused, so structured, so foundational, must also have exposure in another way to the grade level material. And so having both of those things, having the flexibility to do both of those things is really what we strive for.
Thank you. Mr. Pina?
Yeah, I just want to make a statement, and hopefully, maybe I should have said this before tonight, but I would strongly suggest that all of your assistants are here to answer questions, because obviously we are the ones that are going to choose and make the decision whether those positions are cut. And it's the same thing we can do with the superintendent's budget if they don't feel it's as important to be here and answer the questions that we have.
And I'll take responsibility for that. It's not that they did not believe it was important to be here.
Thank you. You may continue.
Okay. Many of our schools are target assistance schools. So how will this budget affect the school goals and student support plans? So the goals for improvement at our schools designated as targeted assistance will remain unchanged. However, we will need to regroup and engage in deep planning to use the remaining resources as strategically as possible to ensure all students receive the support they need. We've also heard concerns that some paraprofessionals do not have laptops or devices, but are still expected to complete trainings and collect student data. Are there plans to improve access to technology for paraprofessionals so they can do their jobs more effectively? So as I mentioned previously, we recently had an audit as the district reflects on the recent technology report and plans for technology usage and distribution moving forward. There will absolutely be a commitment to ensuring that our paraprofessionals and all of our educators have access to the technology they need to support instruction in our classrooms. There was a question about social and emotional support staffing. How many students waiting to see this?
My experience at West when I was an intern.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's basically the same answer as before. Again, we do our best to ensure that we have appropriate staffing, but yes, our school adjustment counselors do have a lot of different responsibilities. They are going to IEP meetings, they're running groups, doing classroom observations, they do work with DCF, so there are a lot of requirements, and yes, I definitely believe that could we always be staffing and doing more for our students' social emotional learning? We certainly could. That there was noticing not a clear line item for DEI staffing in the proposed budget. Is the district eliminating the DEI position? So it actually was, it was not funded for this school year. We took it out of the budget during the fiscal year as we were unable to identify the right candidate or agree upon what the appropriate work streams would be. This was actually a longer conversation we had at the DEI subcommittee meeting. So no, you do not see a line for that in the budget. However, as discussed at that DEI subcommittee, we do believe that that work continues. There was a question about school committee stipends and if individual school committee members wanted to voluntarily reduce or decline part of their stipend, if that was something they could do individually, and if that would be considered a donation or how we would actually view that financially. As this has not been something that I have encountered, we are currently exploring those options to see if one or more school committee members could donate a portion of their stipend. So I will get back to you on that. On
Mr. Rodriguez.
I remember I brought this up a few years ago. There was an explanation that we couldn't, as elected officials, for some obvious reason. I think Sarah was something to be said to follow up with Sarah, because that was one of the things that I did bring up, like if we can forgive our salaries to save the teacher's position, but it was explained that we couldn't because some law. I think we should revisit that.
Okay.
Well, what about?
So we have reached out.
Yes.
I don't know why I'm not following rules today. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, yeah, if we can look into it specifically, if that cannot be done, can it be done through a donation? If that donation as school employees, can we donate it back into our schools?
I mean, one thing I will say, obviously, we are exploring this, but anybody can donate to the school system. I'll put it on the agenda anytime you'd like.
Donations, since the money is still, it's from the board.
Right, exactly.
Anyways,
so
we can definitely look into it.
On page 6, it lists a huge increase from 12K to 200K for required extended year programming at BHS. Do we know what this increase is for? There's another increase to 300K for special ed summer paras. So these costs are actually reflective of the actuals. So this cost was part of that 199 account extraction that we were doing. So again, this is part of building historical data. So the 12K and the original lower number were never accurate.
Okay, thank you.
On page 7, there's a line that includes guidance and SACs at 19 FTE, and then another with just SACs at 6. Do we know why? So yes, so we have tried to separate out our SACs versus our guidance counselor, and we started that last year in order to capture more of our special education costs for our maintenance of effort. So in the past, they were both covered under one account, but this is our continuous effort to break it out. And so one of the things that we've actually had some complications with, and we actually tried to do this as part of our transportation costs last year and then had to move backwards because we tried to break it out specifically so that we would know which runs were special education, which runs were McKinney-Vento. In doing that, we didn't realize that we had then messed with the payroll codes, and that had made payroll more complicated. So again, everything kind of has a domino effect, so we had to backtrack. But another one of the reasons we have to try and break these things out is because we also have to prove to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education that we're making something called maintenance of effort, which means that we are investing the same amount or more for our special education related costs every year. And we are a district that has in the past not made our maintenance of effort. And so we have in the last few years, but that is definitely something we recited previously. So it is really important that we break these out appropriately.
Thank you.
And then finally, on page 29, it lists consulting services like open architects, but it's more than what we know we're paying for open architects, so what other consultants are listed. So there are many. Pam Woods, our Munis consultant, actually the storage containers fall under that as a service. Frontline was paid through this line. Summer camp videos, parking passes, MASBO, so some of our memberships like TMASBO, copier leases that should have been charged to the copier line, WB Mason print services. So there are several things that, again, we need to break out into more detail.
Ms. Oliver.
Do we still have the Munis consult? We don't have that contract no more, right?
Pam Woods?
Yeah.
Yes, we still do. She works on both the city and the school side.
I thought we had agreed to, like, this lady lives in Florida and she's doing a job. I thought we
So she...
Like how much is the school paying on our side and the city's paying? I'm trying to figure out how we pay somebody that lives in a different state.
I can find out. I will say that there are. I will say that there.
Team.
Yes, I will say that there are. That we definitely, I think, looked into separating at some point, but there are some things in Munis or some operations specific to us here in Brockton and Munis that she is able to do that others are not. And I don't know if maybe Dr. Clarkson can speak to that more specifically, but we do have her supporting. There are certain things in our payroll system that, again, we're going to move away from, paper payroll, which is what we have now, but because of some of the transitions or the carryovers of that data that we have to do, that is why we still have her.
Do we know how much we're paying her? On the school side? Because I'm just trying to figure out, like, I think if we're paying
I believe the
TJ and the team certain amount of money, yes. Why can't they figure out the Munis and completely take over and not pay extra for this Pamela? I mean, I'm going to live in Florida and do her job. I don't know. I mean, her salary can basically pay 2 teachers' salary probably. I don't know, I'm trying to figure out.
Ms. Isaac. Oh, before we continue, in conversations with BCA, leave these on and don't turn them off because they'll disconnect. That's why when we turn them back on, sometimes you don't hear what we're saying until it reconnects.
I can hear right here. Actually, Miss Oliver took my question. So to me, that looks like we're double paying for similar service.
Yeah, we are.
So I wanted to see what the breakdown was of her salary because I thought it was a 6-figure salary at one point. And then we're also paying open architects a hefty sum as well. To me, we're paying similar work, 2 separate entities, similar, they're doing similar work. So I don't know why we need a Munis expert when we have open architects. But again, if she's able to do certain things, then do we need her full-time for a full salary or leave her as a consultant? Just given the salary that we're paying, I just think
Yes, I know that some of the work she does is not work that open architects would do, and that she does it on the city side as well.
I'd be curious to see what she does as a breakdown, Mr. Vice Chair.
I remember when we talked about this when Tony was still vice chair, and we were all in awe of how much, if she's a contracted individual, how much it was costing us. And when I brought this up not too long ago too, I asked, are we still paying this person this much money to provide services? The answer was yes, because apparently she has some skills and qualifications that other individuals don't yet have to manage things behind the scenes from Munis. And then also inquired about, we have open architects, why they're a consultant, they look at the numbers and everything, but they're not fully equipped to handle the Munis capability, I would say. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, that's correct, and they're also not in our Munis system doing the day-to-day. That's not really what her consulting fee, I know she's called a consultant, she's more like a contractor because she's actually doing the work. They're more of a consultant because they're consulting on the work. So she has been helping us with our position control project.
Okay, because I mean, it just, when we got into the situation that we got into, we had a Munis expert, quotes, expert, and we still got into the situation we did. And I'm not trying to be, sarcastic here, but I would really love to have her come before us maybe, or even Zoom in, maybe just talk to her and see what does she actually really do? And I'm not downplaying her job. I just want to see for what we're paying on top of open architects. I'd really like to see what Ms. Woods does, given we have an expert, we still ran into issues. So.
Well, I mean, a technical expert for your software system is not going to be somebody who's going to tell people not to hire or not spend money. That is not her role. So I don't want to conflate the two. The
so she's only a software expert.
She's not going to say, hey, school committee, you're overspending, right? Okay. That is not her role. Her role is to be in Munis.
Yeah, so we sent 2, 3, 4 people to Munis to be master Munis people, right?
We just sent people to training, yes.
So were they to come back and train the trainer type stuff?
No, they're learning. I mean, Munis is a very complicated system. No, they're not coming to train the trainer. They're actually learning the system so that we have people in-house who can do what she does.
Now that we have the people in-house, can we get rid of?
I don't think so. We still need her expertise. I mean, much of what she is doing has to do with our payroll system, and that is something that, again, while I know we need to automate it and update it, there are certain areas where I don't think it's a good idea to garner savings if it may then put us into a situation. Yeah.
Just to be extremely clear.
Yeah.
Nobody wants anything. Any mishaps in the payroll.
Right, exactly. Okay. Yes, that's it.
So if we just ensure, listen, I think it's okay to pay Ms. Woods whatever it is if we ensure that we're not going to have any mishaps. So I hope the committee understands that.
Yes.
Ms. Oliver.
My question is how much we're paying her per day, right? What is she doing per day to like assist us? Are we paying her for the service she does, or are we just paying her daily? Like that's, I just want to know, because the thing is, if the majority of the work she's doing is on the city side, I want to make sure that what we're paying and it's not the majority, and the city is basically not paying their part either.
No, they are paying their part. I can look into it.
Payroll
But I will
is intertwined though, correct?
Yes.
So you can't untwine payroll.
I'm just asking a question.
No,
I didn't know she was still
correct?
here. I thought, like, we've been talking about this woman for 3 years. I really didn't think we still had the service on our side.
We did look into it, or I will say I looked into it when I first came, and and I know the contract is held by the city, I believe, and so we looked into her daily rate and all of that, and again, making sure that we procured it appropriately. I will say that this is a service that we need. There are other consulting services I actually think we could do without before we could do without Pam Woods, if I'm being very honest.
Thank you.
Are you going to give us that suggestion? Of
Yes.
the consultant services that we can do without?
Yes, I'm happy to provide those.
In this budget or no?
I could provide it on Tuesday.
All right, thank you.
Any more questions on that? Mr. Rodriguez.
So my last review of that contract was basically, it was $160K, which the school was paying. But the city held the contract. I mean, where we are, I mean, you know, some would kind of think like, okay, 23 to 26, that we kind of learned our lesson. And this has nothing to do with the superintendent, but it's just more, we have a fractured system. That's clear as day finances. And that's what the problem is, it's finance. It is frustrating that since open architects and all of our levels of meeting, it's, you know, what the org chart is for the finance office and what that finance office look like. You know, it's, when we discuss this, you know, obviously the public is concerned that we're paying an individual to $160K, I believe the last time I seen it. And yes, she lives in Florida. She does come up. I've seen her. She does come up for doing work, so I'm not sure who's paying for that, or if that's part of the contract. But when we talk about Munis, that we do have a contract with Munis, it's, you know, where's the district making sure that we have somebody that's actually somebody that's working for us and not at that cost, that understands Munis, or us training our finance folks. So when you say that position should be living within the finance office, that somebody understands the Munis process. The other piece is that, you know, we do, it's a city contract overall, but I think it would do justice, you know, for Munis, because they do have a contract to come before the school committee to actually explain what Munis is and what the capabilities are, and if we are maximizing the uses of Munis to do certain functions with that. So, you know, we could, I don't want to say like point the finger, you know, it is a concern, but at the same point that, you know, we're not out of the, you know, the shadows, as you can call it, you know, when it comes to finances. And, you know, we can say it's a waste of money, not waste of money, but we just have to make sure that there's an actual blueprint to follow when it comes to finance, you know, to make sure that it's, you know, being done properly, and, you know, through payroll and a lot of different functions. So this is more of a deeper, you know, conversation, you know, for the superintendent, you know, to look at that along, to make sure that we're maximizing that. So, but to, you know, I'm not going to sit here and say she's not needed. And at this point, she's there for a reason why she's needed. It is frustrating where you could have, she's doing one function and where, you know, we have open architects doing one function. So And it, not saying the individuals that are actually working in the finance office within the school district, there's not saying like they're not qualified or anything, but it's what does the finance office look like for us to actually be able to look at our finances, in depth of where it is. So when you see that you have this Miss Pam Wood, you have Open Architects, we have our finance office, and then you have the city side where they're functioning and supporting the city side in the school district. It just shows that Brockton needs to get it together within the finance. Open Architects is here for a reason, not because we requested them, is that the state sent them here. In 2020, and here we are doing this budget, and they're still here. I'm not sure what the future holds if they're still going to be here. I clearly see that they're still going to be here because the finances that we're dealing with right now is grim, and it's going to be a lot grim next fiscal year. So something's got to give. It is, it is frustrating. At the 11th hour doing this budget cycle, superintendent, hopefully this moves forward for next year, superintendent, through this body, and I think that the pathway forward is for you and your team to put a budget together. What does it actually take this district to actually educate our students? How many educated, like fully staffing Brockton Public Schools from paraprofessional across the board, and then looking at the formula that we're given to say, okay, this is what we got, here are some of the cuts and recommendations, because obviously the recommendations is going to come through you, and then look at what the city can afford. And, when you look back at the OIG report, it is shameful because, we rely on the experts to give us these informations to make the corrective decisions. And I have never sat, and I don't know if I'm missing something when it comes to doing the finance that, based upon the city's revenue growth. And I know Dr. Clarkson's here, and we can have difference of opinion when we were meeting with the state, and it was eye-opening. It was never a happy moment, and it was just correct this, correct that, and once we think it's being corrected, and we just fall back into that same gap of getting letters of fixing our finances that the school wasn't able to, to spend. So there's a lot of, questions and things that need to be looked at, and some elected folks and individuals will say, the past is the past, but you have to look at the past in order to fix the future. And if we don't look at what happened, we all have, our opinions, but the facts are the facts. I still support the state auditor to come in. I do think some people in high positions within the finance office are not being truthful. And I don't think if the correct and truthful information is being shared. Because if you go back, and like I stated on Tuesday, FY 23, 24, 25, not being able to spend for overcharges, we're not even guaranteed now that there's going to be an overcharge. And my gut is not wrong, and I know there's overcharges. There is, and I'm going to call it out now, that we will be getting another letter from DESE because the city overcharged us on certain amounts. That's clear as day, because there's an anonymity you're going, and there's one common denominator when it comes to that aspect of that. So I never thought that I would be back again because of finances, and I'm thinking that we're out of the blue, and, you know, granted, you know, we have to sit here and line item to line item. We could always reset the budget, but, you know, it's frustrating. It really is. So,
You can have it because I have it.
Before I move on, I know our meetings usually tend to go for a while. We have the city CFO here. I know we've had questions in previous meetings. I know we're still going to be here and continue our discussion. If you guys are not opposed, I would like to invite him in if you guys have any questions.
Just one quick question. It's not going to be, I won't take the
Absolutely.
Can you give us a breakdown of what this contractor does and what's so special about what she does? Not right now, you can send it to us.
Sure.
But what she does and why we can't train one of our own people to do that?
Sure.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to learn.
One question. I think that when this first came about, I did ask for the copy of the contract. I don't think I've ever received a copy of the contract. We did. Has it been re-signed? Oh, like what was the term? Like for 3 years? How many years? Do you remember?
I don't remember. We did receive a copy and we did question aspects of it and the contract. But I know we've been asking and whatnot. We have our CFO, Dr. Clarkson. I would like to invite him up. I know we often go back, we dig deep, and emotions get high, and we ask and we point fingers. Please let us be respectful. We can ask questions, we can disagree, but let's do it in a respectful manner. I beg you guys.
Okay.
Dr. Clarkson.
Can I start?
Sure, Ms. Oliver. Evening, Dr. Clarkson.
Evening.
How are we doing? Thank you for being here, by the way.
My first question is, do you have information regarding the 5% increase? Do you have the data, spreadsheet? Why is there 5% increase? Municipal-related cost.
If you don't, I don't know.
Because the auditor didn't know why, and he didn't have the information, so I'm trying to figure out if you do.
With your permission, Mr. Vice Chair, I would like to offer, before I answer that question, would like to offer some opening remarks.
Sure.
First of all, Mr. Vice Chairman, I appreciate your conciliatory remarks at the beginning asking for proper decorum, because I have to say, and I'm going to speak very frankly tonight, that the discussion that I've witnessed over these last weeks is like nothing I've seen in my career. So I would just echo the Vice Chair's comments and ask you as a professional, but more importantly as a person, to keep your responses and your questions respectful, because I've not seen in my career the kind of unmerited, gratuitous attacks that I've witnessed from this committee in the last several weeks. So I thank you for your conciliatory remarks and would underscore that each time I've appeared before this committee or in private meetings with either school committee members or the superintendent, I have always maintained respect and decorum, and I would ask for the same from you this evening. So before I answer the question, I think it's important that we recognize and come to some consensus on the role of the school committee in this budget process, because it's clear to me that there is, amongst some members of the committee, a pretty significant misunderstanding about the role of the committee. I'm not speaking for all of you, but I've certainly had conversations with members of this committee who believe that it's the committee's ability to actually set the appropriation for the Brockton Public Schools. I've been working in municipal government for more than 30 years in one way or another, and it's 300 years of stated and accepted law that in each community, the legislative branch, which in a town is the town meeting and in a city, of course, is the city council, set the appropriations. the executive, in a town, the select board or a town council, and in a city, the mayor, request that appropriation. Now, the school committees play a critical role in every community, and certainly in this one, but the role of the school committee is to suggest, to ask for, to advocate for a budget, and once it's approved by the legislative body, you then have unfettered authority to prioritize it and spend it as you wish. But I've heard and seen and read things that some members of this committee believe that it's your job to determine the budget and then simply pass it to the legislative branch for them to pass whatever's put forth. And it's just not how it works. And I think that misunderstanding has contributed to some of the tension that's existed over these last several weeks. So the mayor, on Tuesday, will submit a balanced budget to the city council. In that budget, there's a line for $251,570,800 for the Brockton Public Schools. It's then the job of the city council to consider whether to accept or reduce that number. Of course, that number must meet net school spending as calculated by DESE. I guess that's where the uncertainty and unknowns come in. And so I will leave these before I go, because I know we just calculated or put this together today, and I know the committee prefers to have information before a meeting. So I'll leave it with Melinda, and you can review it and we can discuss it some more. But I think it's important to understand, based on the calculations from Open Architects, the formula by DESE, and the actual numbers in the budget that will be before the City Council, to understand what that $251,570,800 means. As we've discussed over the last several weeks, and we don't need to rehash the city's pension bond program, but I will remind the committee and the public watching that that program saved the city an estimated $90 million over 15 years. Had we not issued the pension debt, the school budget next year would likely be around $230 million, a full $20 million less than it is. So when we're talking about the pension bond program, I think it's important to put that in perspective and to see it for the financial benefit that it was. At any rate, we've talked a lot about the credit that the city gets for the principal and interest on that pension debt. And Open Architects calculated the school's share of non-teacher pensions. And on the first calculation, calculated that at 62.4%, meaning that for every dollar that we were spending on pension costs, 62% of that belonged to non-teacher retirees. Open Architects, at the request of DESE, then conducted the analysis in a different way. Open Architects and I are discussing both of those calculations and which is appropriate, perhaps somewhere in the middle. But that second calculation came out at 49%. The budget that we've put before the City Council takes credit for the principal and interest on the pension debt at a level of 36.2%. So let me put that in perspective for the school committee and for the folks watching at home. At 62.4%, we could have legally and legitimately deducted $24.4 million from the net school spending number. At 49%, we could have deducted $19.1 million. But because of the desire of this city and this mayor, and most certainly this CFO, to be collaborative and to provide as much as possible to the Brockton Public Schools, we're deducting $14.1 million, or 36.2%. A full $10 million more in the school budget than we could have legally presented to the City Council. So I think it's time for the rhetoric to end, for the attacks to stop, and for us to work together and recognize that when a city is putting $10 million more than it legally is supposed to in a school budget, that definitely constitutes support of our children. And we're able to do that without a Proposition 2.5 override. And as I'm sure you've read, because I know you all read social media, The city of New Bedford is closing fire stations, laying off firefighters. The town of Halifax nearby has an override scheduled. The town of Lakeville has an override scheduled. The town of Easton, the town of Duxbury have override scheduled. And the town of Marshfield is $7 million upside down. But here in Brockton, we have a balanced budget that includes a number for the schools that's $10 million more than required by law. So I would suggest that it's through that lens that we consider this budget and ask questions. So to answer the question from Ms. Oliver, based on a variety of factors, and in consultation with your own consultant at Open Architects, we decided to put a 5% increase multiplier on that deduction for the Schedule 19. But I think far more important than that, our finance staff and the school finance staff, what's left of them, have been negotiating for some time to try to come up with a number that we could use, or a formula that we could use to be able to reliably every year make that deduction for net school spending.
Okay, so with all due respect, my problem, my issue, it's not attacking, it's facts. The problem is, you came here on April 7th, you said one number, and on April 30th, you send the superintendent a different number. That's my issue. My issue is the fact that whenever we ask questions, we get danced around, we don't get data, we don't get spreadsheet. That's all we're asking. So what is the superintendent's job? What is our job, knowing that you already set the budget? You guys already put it in, printed, right, and sending it to the city council. So what is our job? So she doesn't matter, her job doesn't matter, she can't tell you a budget. So you guys already said it like what you did 2 years ago with the prior mayor, right? Basically slapped us in the face, put a budget, and we were here talking about the budget, going through everything when there's already a budget submitted. It's called respect. You can't come one day, give a number, and then at the end of the month, you say, oh yeah, by the way, no, I'm charging you this. And also making them work on the weekend, making them work overnight, just to figure out a budget when they already been told on April 7th. That's my problem. It's not about disrespecting. It's like we want honesty. We want respect for our role. If you want respect, it goes both ways. It goes both ways. And that's how I tell my kids. If they're not respecting you, then you know what? Give it right back to them. Respect goes both ways. It's a two-way road. That's all I'm asking since I've been here for 3 years. I ask for information, I don't get it, it's a dance, it's a question. That's all I'm asking. Be honest. If it was going to be $10, $14 million, you should have said it on April 7th. The superintendent asked you, are you sure it's only going to be 11.4? And it's on camera, it's recorded. You said yes. You said you were not basically clawing back. You're not getting any money back. And on April 30th, how did you send information to the superintendent? Was it an email? Was it a phone call? By the way, it's going to be 14 million, not 11.4. It's frustrating. Do you not understand how frustrating it is for us that we have to, basically now, we have to make a call to lay off people? Do you understand the percussion of those decisions that's being made without our consult? That basically we don't matter, our voice doesn't matter? So why are we here? Why we got voted in? We also have to oversee the budget. We have to make sure our kids are being funded correctly. We have issues with DESE on certain our schools. They're failing. What do you tell parents? That sorry, we don't have funds. We're going to lay off teachers. We're going to lay off paraprofessional. Sorry, the SPED department, we can't help your kid that can't read. We can't help your autistic kid. What do we tell parents? So what is our job? I want you to tell us, like, so you already sent the budget, so it doesn't even matter why we're here. Why do we have meetings? So we can just pack it up and leave because you guys already made a decision then for us. Because whatever we say here doesn't matter. So I don't even know. It's not respect. It's called We want the truth, and we deserve the truth, and so does them out here, so does parents at home, so does taxpayers. I'm a taxpayer. My kids go to the school. They deserve the same education that Bridgewater and any other school is getting. That's all I ask for my kid and everybody's child that's watching, to get the best education, not to have a class of 30 or 40. Not for the SPED department to basically cut funds, speech, OT, and now they're going out of district. And when you go out of district, you lose money, right? So now you're gonna have parents, they're gonna pull their kids out because there's nobody there to watch the kids. That's what I had to do. That's what I had to do. And at the end of the day, as a parent, we do what's best for our kids, and if Brockton's not educating our kids appropriately, we're leaving. We'll sell our house because the best thing, and unfortunately, not all of us can afford private schools for our kids. So how do we tell these parents, yeah, bring your kids, but there's no teachers there? There's nobody there to help you. Your kid is going to be reading at, what, 3rd grade level in their 5th to 6th grade. How do we answer parents and the educators and everybody else that's watching? It's not an attack on you. We want honesty from the city side. And I've been asking for 3 years. You can say whatever you want, you can write your little comments, but this is what I'm asking. They can call me arrogant, disrespectful, but I deserve the same respect. If you're gonna come here, I want honesty, I want numbers, I want data, I want spreadsheet, I want it all outlined at the end of the day. Thank you.
Mr. Vice Chair, may I respond?
You may.
I would remind Ms. Oliver, it was you that stood up more than 2 years ago at a school committee meeting and pointed to me and said, stop stealing money from our children.
And I still will say that I do not believe the word that comes out of your mouth.
Please do not lecture me on respectful
Please put that on the
behavior.
newspaper. I do not believe the word that comes out of your mouth.
All right, please.
And you can go get another citation.
So I'm just trying to respectfully answer the question that was posed, Mr. Vice Chair.
Sorry to interrupt.
The member asked what the job is of the school committee, and let me be very clear. I'm not trying to lecture or speak down to the school committee, but the member specifically asked a question, and I thought I answered it in my opening remarks, but I think that denotes the basic misunderstanding that some members have about the role of the school committee. What I described to you is not Troy's version of the law of the process. What I described to you is how the budgeting process works in 351 cities and towns across the Commonwealth. That the executive branch proposes, the legislative branch appropriates, and then the schools spend with unfettered authority and no ability other than the priorities of the school committee to determine how that money gets spent. That's how the process works. And the fact that the school department has underspent the appropriation from the city by $15 million over the last 2 years, and likely another $5 million this year, is not a failing of the city. That money is available to be appropriated by the school committee at any time. And every year that I have been here as the chief financial officer, and I've worked with 3 different mayors, the appropriation from the city has exceeded net school spending every year. And so the notion that somehow money is being denied from the schools is a fallacy, and it's a political trope that's designed to create division in the community, and that's unfortunate. I would challenge any school committee member to demonstrate how and when the city has underfunded the schools. When I just presented to you, and what's kind of ironic, and in my experience anyway, working with several superintendents and several school committees over many, many years, the budget process is always iterative. We're always trying to balance it and find money here and find money there. And then when on the very last day, last Friday, when the mayor reviewed the budget and decided to increase the appropriation to the schools, we moved money around and cut money from city budgets because it's the mayor's budget and it's up to him to decide that. I didn't hear a complaint or a concern when the number went up on the last day, but that's how budgeting works. And so we're doing the best we can. We reduced the city budget requests by more than $20 million. Let me repeat that. We reduced the city request by more than $20 million so that we could meet this appropriation request to fund the Brockton Public Schools. So I think we're doing an extraordinary job of trying to meet the needs of the students here and providing funds that continuously and habitually go unspent.
Thank you. Before I move on, I just wanted to share. We did have some discussions via email where you and I disagree on the role of the committee as when it comes to the budget. And I did mention that I would check with the legal counsel as far as how far our role extends or goes. See, I'm just losing it. I'm just gonna read a couple of things and then I'll leave it at that and then we'll just take it from there. So, Mass General Law, Chapter 71, Section 37 states that the school committee in each city and town and each regional school district shall have the power to select and determine the superintendent, shall review and approve budget for public education in the district, and shall establish educational goals, da-da-da-da. Under General Law, Chapter 71, Section 34, 37, 38, and the committee is charged with developing the school budget for the next fiscal year, holding a public hearing, and voting on the budget to be submitted to the legislative body, which is the City Council. So then, based on our discussion, I'm confused because, I mean, similar to my colleague Anna said, if us approving and voting on a budget does not mean that budget makes it to City Council for final approval, why have a school committee? Why are we going through this budget, going through all the trouble, asking the superintendent a million questions, having her scrambling around to provide all these answers, if at the end of the day, there's no need to provide these to the council?
That's an excellent question, Mr. Vice Chair, and I'll answer it for you.
And also, please incorporate the, general laws and Massachusetts laws that I just mentioned to see if that can clarify.
Well, I think the general laws that you cited validate the argument that I was making, and the reason why you spend all this time and review this is because once that appropriation is made by the legislative branch, as I mentioned twice, you have full authority to determine how the money gets spent, what the priorities are, and what the policies are that guide that spending. I say all the time when I teach budgeting at the college level, a budget is the most important policy document of any community. It talks about what a community values. So it's your job as the elected stewards of the public funds in the school department to determine what's important, how the money gets appropriated, and what programs and priorities you want to support in consultation with the superintendent. But that number, that bottom line number, in every community in Massachusetts is developed by the executive in the legislative branch. That's how it works.
Then the piece that says we vote on the budget to be submitted to the legislative body, the City Council, are we just tossing that out?
Not just tossing it out, but that doesn't mean that the school committee has the legislative authority to appropriate. Yes, every community, the school committee votes and provides a budget to either the town meeting or the City Council. That happens everywhere. But if you don't believe me, then ask mayors or select board members or school committee members or ask MASC. This is 300 years of settled law. We're having a debate about something that's foundational to our Constitution here in Massachusetts and the laws of the Commonwealth.
In my understanding, after this I'll yield, well, two things. First one is a question. So once we fulfill this general law of voting on a budget to be submitted to the City Council, but you're saying that it doesn't have to go, what happens to that budget that we vote? Is it just for the sake of voting on it, or? That's where I'm confused.
What's the point?
And the other piece is, from my understanding, is the mayor, even with past practice, would not, from 2 years ago, because I was disappointed at how the budget process went, but would present the budget that we approve. They would, let's say, deliver it to the City Council, but then in their, what would you call it, your balance sheet, you would propose your numbers. The mayor would propose this is how much we can actually give and advise the council, but our budget, the one that we vote on, should and has to make it to the City Council, because then it defeats the purpose of having this.
I understand, Mr. Vice Chair, that's the way you would like it to be, but what the
Well,
process...
that's what the law is saying.
But I'm sorry, I'll respectfully disagree with you. That's not the law, and I would suggest that you consult with MASC. Dr. Tiliani's been around several communities. I'm sure she will validate that it's the executive branch that proposes and the legislative branch that appropriates. That's settled law. I'm not proposing anything new that's unique to Brockton.
Well, if that's what you say, then, I mean, legal counsel would definitely take it up and provide a better
I would
overview.
strongly encourage you to consult with legal counsel, as I have.
Absolutely. Mr. Pina.
Yes, Mr. Clarkson.
I'm so
how are we
sorry,
doing
Tony, I
today? We're
forgot.
going to be nice tonight.
I hope so.
So, you're fully not correct when you say that the budget for the schools comes from the city. It comes from the state. The state dictates the foundational budget, correct? And then we should be having conversations throughout the year about how that foundational budget is then matched up with everything that gets kind of taken out with the Schedule 19, for example. Is that correct?
Well, I'll say we're both correct. What I was speaking about was the appropriation, and that is solely the city. But yes, of course, it must comply with the net school spending number as prescribed by DESE. That's why I discussed that in detail in my opening remarks.
Sure. So when we met, when I was elected, I met with you and asked to be involved with as much of the finance meetings as possible. I have experience in finance, working in the federal side. I'd learned a lot about Schedule 19 and realized that's where the big disconnect is. So if you know that the most contentious part of this whole process is the Schedule 19, wouldn't it have behooved you to actually have maybe one of us, at least one of us involved, have an MOU signed with you and the superintendent, and then just have this all settled before it came to this? Because listen, we understand, we can't say it's a $500 million budget. We can't. We understand that completely. We have a budget that DESE says this is what you have. So what we're actually arguing is not what DESE gave us. What we're arguing is the differences in opinion as to what the city may or may not have used, or we may or may not have used of city services versus school services. So I would just implore you that if you want us all to get along and sing Kumbaya and all that good stuff, that you just have us involved. Don't come in and talk down to us. Look, I get it. People don't like the funny social media stuff. I get it. I apologize if that offended you. I thought it was funny. But I'm just saying that if you have us at the table, if you have us there, then this wouldn't happen. And I would just, I got to stick up for my superintendent, all right? She didn't hire, and we couldn't hire because the city put a freeze on what we were able to hire. So it's disingenuous for you to say to us or in public that we didn't hire in time when you gave us the money late and the mayor said that we couldn't hire. I wasn't here, but this is what I'm told. And now we're here at this point. That's fine. That was a previous administration. It's over. All I'm asking for is let's turn the page. Let's sit down at a table. Again, obviously it can't be all of us. Have one or two of us sit down at the table and just go over the numbers. That's all we're asking for. And I don't think it's that hard. Yes, the number that you're going to send to the city council can't be more than what DESE said is. It's the foundational budget. That's it. We can't go over that because the city can't go over that. Other cities and towns might be able to provide more, which is cool. But we're a city that's always done what we could with what we have. And all we're asking for is our fair share. And for everyone just to sit at the table and talk, not go back and forth. And I said this to I am going to blame the mayor. I said this to him when I was first elected. We have to sit at the table. Because I don't agree with half the things everyone up here says. That's just because it's my politics. But at least I'm willing to sit at the table, and that's all I'm asking. Just, can we sit at the table?
And Mr. Pina, my answer is absolutely, and we actually have meetings every couple of weeks that are scheduled. Sometimes we meet, sometimes we don't. But I can tell you my team meets regularly internally.
But
and
can you invite us?
When you reached out, when you were first elected, I think within a day or so we had a meeting scheduled.
And I thought it was going to work out well.
And I don't recall a time that any member of this committee has asked to meet or to talk that hasn't been met with open arms. So my response to you is yes, of course. We would welcome the input of any member of this committee.
But when we're talking about the things that are really contentious, so that we don't have to do it in public and we don't have to get to the point where it boils over and all of a sudden now we're trying to get kids to come to our schools, not leave our schools. So listen, if we knew that the budget was 251 6 months ago, okay, cool, then we could work with that. So I'm just asking that if we were having these conversations, maybe, I hate to say this, but maybe it is the contractor that's involved. It shouldn't be working for both sides. I don't think they should. I think that if we're going to have a contract that helps with our budget on one side, it shouldn't be helping for the budget on the other side. And let's be honest, the state highly encouraged us and gave us the largest grant that's ever been given to bring this contractor in. So I'm just, listen, we're at a point now where we're having to make decisions, which is fine, because that's why we get elected, to make decisions, hard decisions. But on the turn, we want to find out, is the city making the same decisions? Are they laying people off? Because I see them on a consistent basis continually hiring. I see what the mayor has in his office. I see what all these, and I just want to know, are you hurting as much as we are?
Oh, the answer to that is an unequivocal yes. I think I described to you that we reduced the requests from our departments, non-school departments, by more than $20 million to balance this budget. And several positions were cut, one in my office. So you'll see when obviously the budget hearings before the city council are public, and the school committee and the superintendent always come. And so you'll see as we go through from department to department, the positions that were reduced, the initiatives that were reduced. There was a lot of pain on the city side of this budget to be able to offer the number that appears in net school spending. And that is an unequivocal fact. I mean, the numbers are plain and in black and white. And as I said, depending on how you calculate it, and whether it's 62.4 or 49% of those pension costs, the budget that we submitted is either $5 million or $10 million greater than it otherwise had to be. If that is not an example of collaboration and care, then I don't know what is.
I just got one last question, and look, I don't think we're going to get anywhere. We're not going to talk about Schedule 19 and go through the numbers like that, and I know it's obviously we'd be here until 5 in the morning. But looking at our debt that's coming up, what are we doing for 2029 or 2030, through 2035? Are we going to refinance that debt, or is the school going to end up taking that $35 million on us? Are we going to be taking the larger portions, because you know it goes up higher and higher as the years go on, because it's a 10-year debt for that? So is it, who's going to end up taking the bigger portion as the amount goes way up?
Are you speaking specifically about the pension debt?
Yeah, because it's extremely concerning that we're looking at a cliff and we're walking towards it, and I need to know. I hope the committee also wants to know: are we going to renegotiate that debt? Are we? What is going to happen that is going to help us not lay off 200, 300, 500?
So that's actually an excellent question, and although those debt numbers are increasing over the next several years, I think it's really important to remind the committee that the escalation of the pension payments, had we not taken out the debt, would have far exceeded that, and that's why we saved $95 million.
I understand why you did what you did. I completely understand that. That's not the question. The question is, it's still going to go up. And I get that. And believe me, if it was up to if it was up to me, I would do away with the pension system the way it is, and I'd put everything into Social Security. Teachers are separate. I get that, but everybody else, we do away with the pension system because that's what most other towns and cities and states have done. Because this is the same exact thing that was happening in the federal government. This is what happened in the car industry. This is what happened in the airplane industry. The unfunded liability of the pension is going to become so large that we're not going to have anything to do. Like, we're going to have to get bailed out by the federal government. Like, so what is the plan in the next 10 years?
So that number is escalating over the next 10 years. I would suggest, when you ask the question, who's going to assume a greater share of those costs, the city
No, we
or
will,
the schools?
because they're ours. We agree with that. But all I'm asking you, I'm not asking who's going to assume it. If we agree that it's 50-50 or 60-40 or whatever it is, that doesn't matter. The number is the number.
Okay,
And
good.
if you don't have the money in the city side, we don't have the money on the, that means it's going to come out of the schools. So all I'm asking is that going to be renegotiated?
No. That sort of debt is, in public finance, it sounds funny, but it's called refundable. And that sort of debt is not refundable. When you issue refundable debt, it tends to be at a higher interest rate. And so I think the interest rate, I will tell you, that we were able to get on that was less than 3%. So it was historic. And so even if we could refund it, it wouldn't make sense because of what interest rates are right now.
So, I'm sorry. So now you're not afraid, you're not worried. I'm a forward looker. I look 10 years ahead. So what you just said is that when it hits that $35 million mark, we are going to be paying the $20 million.
Yeah, I didn't say I wasn't concerned. It's a legitimate question, but we are in a profoundly better position having done what we did than we otherwise would have been.
We just kicked the can down the road is all we did.
I would respectfully disagree with that. I think we actually significantly reduced our cost because we were able to pre-fund that pension liability and give that money to the retirement board and use the interest earnings to reduce the overall liability. So we didn't kick the can down the road. And listen, this pension bond program was recognized by objective third parties as one of the best in the nation because of the way that we put it together.
I understand
and then we
that.
took $20 million in cash and put it in a pension stabilization fund. That is one of the sources that was able to increase that extra $800,000 in the school budget. So I would suggest that the plan is working as it was designed, and the beneficiaries are the students in the Brockton
In your
Public Schools.
prospectus, it's supposed to be 40 million though, and it's down to 20. So
Yeah.
I'm confused as to.
And I know you asked that, and we will provide an answer to that inquiry. We were able to actually increase it to almost $30 million, and in the wake of the school deficit, we've not been able to add back to that because, as you know, the city drains its reserves to cover that deficit, and that's something we just can't recover from in a year or two. So gradually, we're trying to work that back.
Are you concerned that Moody's is going to come back like they did last year and possibly downgrade us?
No, we weren't downgraded.
No, I didn't say you were downgraded.
No, I'm not at all. In fact, we had a ratings call with Standard & Poor's, which is the other major rating agency, because we have additional pension debt being issued next month, along with some temporary debt to help fund some of our capital projects. And the meeting with Moody's went very well. I can't predict what the rating is going to be. I can tell you that they offered compliments to the city and our finance team, which doesn't often happen on a bond rating call. And on May, I think it was 21st, we anticipate the rating to be issued. And I fully expect to maintain our current rating. And the reason for that is, despite our financial challenges, and despite what some members of this committee may say or think, that the rating agencies and the outside observers who watch Brockton have a very high degree of confidence in our team and how we operate.
All right, and I'll just ask one more question, and it's, you brought it up. It is the last one, I know. Will you sit here tonight and agree to sit down with us and go over the capital improvement plan, to redo the capital improvement plan so that we can look at the schools that need to be rebuilt, Kennedy, Hancock, Downey? I mean, we haven't, and when I asked you this question, when I sat down with you, you said you hadn't done it since 2020 or something like that, because you were waiting on, I forget what it was, but can we sit down as two bodies and actually have that conversation so that we can, the parents and everybody looks at this to see what we're doing with schools. So all I'm asking is if we can sit down and have that conversation.
I would be eager to have that conversation because, and I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves talking about the high school project, but as some of you have been in meetings where we've discussed the financing plan for the high school project, and we have come up, I think, with a financing plan for that project that will not only allow us to build that brand new high school with a minimal impact on the taxpayers, far less than virtually any community in Massachusetts for a major capital school plan. However, in addition to that, we have planned it, and this was planned so that the city, at the request of Mayor Rodriguez, will be able to invest tens of millions of dollars in other school facilities without a request to increase taxes on the taxpayers. So the answer to that question is an emphatic yes, and I would be glad to sit down with you or any other member of the committee and go over that in detail.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I yield.
Thank you. No? Any other members? Mr. Rodriguez.
Mr. Clarkson, you've been in front of this body. We have some new members. It's kind of strange that it's not an attack. I think that by now you should probably have some thick skin. And I'm going to address you if whatever I state or however you might feel. I know you have feelings, and I could honestly care less about how you feel when you come before this body. And the reason why I will say that is because you know as well as I know, when we went up to the State House, it was very embarrassing. And I know the mayor, former mayor, kept saying it was a great meeting, it was a great meeting, when it was never a great meeting. And I remember leaving that meeting, and it wasn't so much based upon the school district, it was based upon the whole city as a whole, where the school district had increase in finances to, educate our students, but the school committee has had some blame in that, but the onus remains heavily on you. When I walked out of that meeting, the first person I called was then Council President Rodriguez, who is now the mayor, and he attended the following meetings after that. I told him, this was, what happened, and a lot of the financial questions that DOR and the folks was asking you, and at some point, I'm not a financial expert. I felt that I could have answered those questions better than you. That's just clear as day.
Could you give us a specific example?
I'm just going overall.
Of course not.
I got into an argument with the mayor because I invited the council president to that meeting, because he stated this is about schools while you're inviting the because it's about the whole city, and he was invited specifically to report back to his council members to show how grave and the financial problems that rely on this city. So I understand you have some great relationships and some cheerleaders at the city council that support you. I don't. I'm just honest. You know, you could be the greatest guy in the world, but one of the sticking points in those meetings is that, you know, a lot of the changes in moving the accounts had to go to the council, obviously, because that's the body that moves it. It was more of the directions of DOR indicating that these funds needed to be, and you were off by millions. It wasn't something that was like 100,000, 200,000. You were off by millions, and I'm sitting there in awe because you are the person that we are supposed to rely on when we make financial decisions in the city, including, yes, it's the mayor's budget. There's a reason why Open Architects is here on the school side. There's a reason why we have a compact agreement. You can take this personal. We wouldn't have a compact agreement and we wouldn't have financial consultants if you knew what you were doing. If you knew what you were doing.
Mr. Vice Chair.
I'm speaking now. I have the floor. Please do not interrupt me. You'll have your time because I have some questions to you as well.
These are gratuitous and unfounded attacks.
They're here because the state sent them here. I was in those meetings, and you know that. And I'm going to just, Mr. Vice, just give me a second here. 15 million you said that we didn't spend. I sat in November of 2023 and indicated that yourself and the mayor put in a hiring freeze. You can't do that. And when I see where it was going, it was that you were trying to create a surplus. You can argue that you weren't. And you did. And I told you you cannot do that because you have to understand how school finances work. And I can tell you that there's a problem there, hopefully from 23 to now, that you got educated and that you do have a doctorate degree now. And I don't know how you're teaching finance with all the stuff that's going on. So
these personal attacks have no place.
But what I'm going to tell you is this: we weren't able.
You're out of line.
I didn't interrupt you when you were speaking. Please do not interrupt.
Because I was respectful.
Because I am being respectful to the level of how this is falling on you. And if no other governing body is going to hold you accountable, this body is. And we've been trying to do that. And if the mayor can't see that, I don't even know what else to tell him, is this. In 2016, and this is why I want to trust you, but I can't. I'll be honest with you. I'm being truthful. That's what it is, and this is what I want from you.
We've heard that before.
Because this, and I'll keep repeating it so the public can know who you are. In 2016, when you talk about the city stealing funds, let's not call it stealing, taking or utilizing those funds. In 2016, and there's an email, and I will share it publicly, $4.4 million was taken from the school district for capital improvement project, which is the city's responsibility. 2016. In 2025, I was called to sign those documents, which I asked you in an email with all the state folks in there, please provide me documentation that no school funds was diverted for any school projects. You didn't respond that for weeks, and then I refollowed it again. You invited me to come and look at your master plan or whatever you want to call it. But I just wanted a simple yes or no. And that the answer to that question should have came from you. It should have came from you, Troy. And when I found out that it was $4.4 million that was taken from the schools, and Mrs. Azak was on the committee at that time, and any of the educators, there was 100 plus that were laid off. So that came off the books. I don't know if that's prior to your time. I believe you came in, 2019? I don't know when you got hired. But there was a reimbursement of 1.16, which in technicality, those were Chapter 70 funds. That should have came back on our books. $8.6 million, which wasn't expended because of the DESI formula, we got 7.3 back. That was your mechanism of sending a budget of 226 and you thought you could keep that money or utilize it for the city. That's my assessment, because the math is mathing. I don't know where your math is coming. So you funneled $226 to the city council to appropriate that, but you were told by DESI that that money has to come back, and it did, which goes up to like, $233. And that was what the school committee's request was that year for $232. Because if you put that $232 budget, which is the law, to the city council, you had to put that carryover on top of the $232. So it was well planned out by you and the former executive. I call him Roberto. I would never call him. But that's where the concerns are. So it's a tough pill, no disrespect that. Like, sometimes it's just like you dance around. We're not here to dance around. We just want to know the actual numbers. That was the reason why I filed an amendment with this committee to bring the state auditor in. And I still stand by that, because look what we're dealing with. And the ultimate responsibility relies, it's on you, Troy. I don't know, it's common sense, and I think this body, once it comes back forward here to approve that, and it goes back to the council, because we need it. We really do, because we really need to know where the city is financially. And I don't think we're getting the appropriate answers when it comes, from 1 week it's one number, then it's to the next number, then we look at Schedule 19 and all of these charges. Health insurance, we agree that, yes, health insurance costs go up, and certain costs, we understand that. But to know that you're getting more allocation, but you're getting decreased overall. And I remember in that meeting coming out of Sean Cronin's mouth, and I hope he's watching. So you indicated our non-net it is what it is. If it's 24, you don't project, you don't go from 24 million down to 18. You spent 24. Yes, you're going to make efficiencies and make cuts and try to balance that. But you know what? That's what it's going to cost. You're going to pay it one way or the other. And when we talk about collaboration, I'll be honest with you, Mr. Clarkson, in those meetings, and we had weekly meetings with finance, we had the roundtables with transportation, and I'm like, new superintendent, building this out. Yes, things are going to get better, and it's just like blown up. I don't know what happened. I don't know if those meetings are still taking place. I hope they are. I hope the vice chair is involved in those talks. And if those meetings stopped, I question that. I really do, because those meetings should have been continuing to happen. Because if it doesn't, it's just like, what's really happening? Like, what's going on? And I told Desk, I do not trust the city. You were in that meeting. We were all in it. I said it. There needs to be another eye to look at what's going on. It really is, and I can say, like, at this point, I don't even know where the light is at the end of the tunnel. You're still here, though.
That's the one thing you got right this evening,
sir.
You're
still here. But let me ask you a question. Where are we with the solar credits? I thought we were trying to use the solar credits for energy. Those are meetings that we had in a while.
Yeah, before I answer that final question, I'd like to address the first several questions from the member. Because, well, let me answer that first, because that'll probably be the most positive thing I'll say. We actually, the last fiscal year, the school department, working between TJ and Pat Hill, the DPW commissioner who manages that program, actually purchased a significant amount of solar credits and was able to accrue a 20% savings for a lot of the electricity. We didn't sell any solar credits to the schools this year because we used up all of our allocation because of the increase in energy costs. But let me address some of the
Before you get to your
Mr. Vice Chair.
Mr. Vice Chair. Let me ask,
I thought we
before he gets into
established.
this, your philanthropy, whatever you have your degree in, GIC, have the city looked at GIC to see if there's any cost savings in getting into that program when it comes to health costs?
Absolutely, we've done extensive research on that.
Is there any savings or no savings, or is this something that's an
I would
ongoing conversation?
I would not characterize it as savings. What the GIC does is offer lower cost insurance plans that have higher deductibles and higher co-pays. And so what happens when communities shift to the GIC, the appropriation for health insurance is less, but the burden is shifted to the employees. So the city spends less, but our employees wind up paying a lot more. And so the city, working with the Public Employee Committee, which includes a representative of the schools, a couple of different unions in the schools, has agreed to extend that PEC agreement for 4 more years, because it provides low-cost, high-quality health insurance, and I believe is a good alternative to the GIC. But let me address some of the other issues you raised, and because this is a continued, Mr. Vice Chair, source of profound frustration, not just for me, but for other employees who work in the finance office and who work in City Hall, when they're subject to the kind of gratuitous and unfounded attacks that we just heard from the member. The allegations are without foundation. When the member said that I was off by millions, he couldn't substantiate how many millions or what exactly the issue was, because these statements are made up out of full cloth. One of the interesting things that I just heard is that the onus remains heavily on me. I am the sole person who has stood before this committee and before the City Council and accepted responsibility for the role in the school deficit. But what's funny is I too read the report from the Office of Inspector General, and my interpretation of that is certainly a significant onus or responsibility for that deficit lies with the school committee and the members who existed at that time. So it's getting a little tired to hear the same old inaccurate trope just to try to gin people up and get them excited. Right. What people are looking for is honesty, absolutely correct. But honesty from all of us involved in this, not just continued attacks that get us nowhere.
Thank you. I like to be fair. Let me just say that. That's why I wanted to give you the opportunity to speak on what he said, because if I were in your position, I would want that opportunity. We are deviating from topic somewhat. So I want us to stay focused. It's 10:30 almost.
Mr. Vice Chair, all due respect, when we talk about we're not getting off topics, we're getting stripped of millions of dollars based upon his expertise, lack of expertise when it comes to educational finance. Okay,
but I want us to remain focused on the main goal here. I know earlier the superintendent wanted to be positive. The floor could be yours. I know you've been part of majority of the meetings we've had with the city, with Desi. She wanted to speak when you were speaking, but your question kept going, so she lost her train of thought. You sure you don't want to chime in on this discussion?
The floor is yours.
I do want to make sure that the community knows that we have not been underspending. I just want to, yes, before I came, there was a hiring freeze. So that is a huge part of the reason for the net school spending carryover. Then as a reminder, 2 months after I arrived, we stopped, not me, but bills stopped being paid. We had vendors coming here. We had to redo 300 procurements, and I'm not saying it was right that procurements had not been done, but they hadn't been done for 3 years, and I'd only been here 2 to 3 months. That was another way to stall our spending. When I first arrived, I used to have to submit a piece of paper to City Hall in order to hire anybody. I finally had to state and get the vice chair's approval that if I needed to, because I still didn't understand how things worked here in Brockton, if I needed to get disciplined some way, I would rather get disciplined for not having waited for that piece of paper to be signed by Dr. Clarkson than have kindergartners sitting out on the curb the day before school started because I wasn't allowed to hire. So I feel like it is incredibly disingenuous to say that we have not spent our funds. There have been many times when we have not been allowed to spend our funds. Now, I have done the best I can. I haven't even been here 2 years. It's felt like 20, and I'm doing.
You've aged, you poor thing.
I feel you.
I know.
Giving you glitter.
But I have also, when I realized that I wasn't getting anywhere trying to argue with the not spending or the slow procurements, we just put our head down and worked our hardest to get it done and to basically achieve the impossible, to demonstrate that I could, that we had the capacity, and that we could again get work moving. And I feel like we were moving in the right direction, and yet here we are stalled again. And I'm not exactly sure, because I wasn't part of the meeting you were talking about where Dr. Clarkson was off by millions, but I can at least say in Schedule 19, you were off by millions in just the last month. So that is a place where I can provide an exact example of being off by millions. So, and I have also done my very best to try to work collaboratively and collegially with City Hall, have even come to your defense with my own school committee when I was trying my best to work collegially. But I will be honest now, trust has even been broken for me. And I apologize on behalf of myself to the school committee that you didn't get your numbers earlier, and that even if you had, they wouldn't have been right. I apologize to the school system that we're in the position that we're in, but when you stand there and say something so disingenuous, it does make it that much more difficult for me to trust what you were saying.
I'll leave most of that alone, Mr. Vice Chair.
I think it would be best if you did.
But if what was said were accurate, based on our estimates, there's another $5 million for this year.
That you have not appropriated to us. That's another thing that I didn't mention, is that we also had to argue for over a year about how the net school spending carryover, I don't know that, you all know who I am, that net school spending carryover needed to be provided to us without further appropriation. We didn't get it till January. That was an argument that lasted for 5 months. So arguing about bills getting paid, arguing about hiring, arguing about procurements, arguing about our money getting returned to us. So again, we tried our best to spend. So to say then to put it on us that we're not spending is completely inappropriate. We are now utilizing that net school spending carryover, and I just want to remind you all that I need a vote next Tuesday to utilize that net school spending carryover to offset some of the budget deficit that we are dealing with right now. So we are utilizing those funds to prepay tuitions, and we will be utilizing the $6 million that, yes, you still owe us, not to on net school spending side, not to mention the 4.6 that we are owed in non-net for transportation.
Thank you, Superintendent. I will say, you and I have had conversations. She has defended you and tried to work, and this is between conversations I've had with her. One thing I'll point out, going back to Mr. Pina's statement from earlier, it would be amazing for us to sit down at the same table and look at the numbers you guys look at, because to be honest, yes, I've sat in those meetings, but numbers come to us. And you're my witness, you're here. I've sent emails saying, can I get back up for this? And either it takes forever, takes a while, or the numbers, the backup either doesn't justify, doesn't provide reasoning for the numbers. And I think if we were to sit at the table and talk about these things and agree on how we're being charged for some of the services or how things are being calculated, that would be so much more helpful. It is unfortunate that we are at this situation now. And again, to Mrs. Azak's point, she's been saying, can we have the finance meeting? When we planned the finance meeting, similar to last year, in my experience here, we've talked finance during the month of May. We planned out for the whole month of May to discuss finance and so on and so forth. But when we put those dates out there, we booked it throughout the whole month. we were looking at the 254 that was presented by yourself, Dr. Clarkson, and the 20 million that was also presented by yourself. So we're like, these numbers look good. We'll put the budget together. We'll discuss the whole month of May. We'll submit in June, and we're done. However, now it feels like we're scrambling all over the place because we're cutting here. We need to make adjustment here. We have so many questions that we probably would have taken our time now if we, if we had known that we wouldn't have to make the cuts we have to make now to meet our contractual obligations and whatnot. So I do understand some of the frustration that are coming from some of the members with this whole process. Honestly, since becoming vice chair, or since this election, I thought things were going to be much smoother. Having a new committee, it has not, and even smoother working with the city, because I know you've been trying. Even with some of the recommendations you had made to this committee, to the previous committee, she's been trying since she got here to work collaboratively with the city. But I don't know if I can say that I'm seeing much progress. And here we are, having to make cuts. And it's not even, well, it will impact us, but the employees that we have, the students that we provide service to, the families that live here, that live elsewhere, but work for us. But I just hope we can again find some common grounds and common sense to clear things out and have proper documentation and be able to come to a budget that actually shows that we're moving forward. It feels like we're taking a huge step back, honestly. This is my first time having to do cuts on a budget, school committee budget, and honestly, I was not prepared for this. Ms. Centello.
Speaking of budget cuts, Ms. Oliver had a great question for you that I would like to get an answer. So today, we are being asked to make some hard decisions, which is to reduce staff. Since your team is the one that draft our budget, can you tell our staff, some are here today, of why we don't value you guys? Are you able to give them that answer, why we don't value them?
I can most certainly answer the question, but I would respectfully disagree with your premise. I think we've proven how deeply we value the school department and the educators and the support staff, which is why the number that is before the City Council exceeds the net school spending calculation by millions of dollars. If that doesn't prove how much the mayor values the Brockton Public Schools, then I don't know what does. Again, that's in the face of $20 million in reductions on the city budget. And I think we need to recognize, I keep hearing questions, and not from you, member, but from others, that are like gotcha and trying to bait me into saying we're struggling financially. I've openly said that for years, and there's a reason for that, and we've been over that a little bit tonight. But this is not unique to Brockton. I just went through a whole list of communities that are looking at overrides. The funding mechanism for municipal government in Massachusetts is broken. And so I just gave you a list of a half dozen communities that are facing overrides. Because, well, but I get it. But I think we have to understand that this isn't some terrible storm that has befallen Brockton. It's a challenge throughout Massachusetts. But I'm proud of the fact that we are headed into the next fiscal year with a balanced budget and not seeking an override. So is there pain? Absolutely. Is that easy? Do we take that seriously? Of course we take it seriously. And that's why there are also reductions of staff on the city side, because we do share in that responsibility and in the need to have a balanced budget.
Thank you.
So there's still no answer, so we will be the one to deliver the message. You give me a story, which is great, but you still didn't answer the questions. I think I have to go home because my kids is at home, and storytelling is not what I need right now. So I guess we can move on to the next question.
Thank you.
Oh, well, both at the same time.
He's had enough tonight.
No, Miss Azak.
Yeah, let me go to Ms. T. She has had a chance. Yeah, Ms. Azak.
I just have a question. So why is it we just found out, was it April 30th? Why weren't we notified sooner than that? Just curious.
Well, I think I'm not going to get into a debate with the superintendent about how the communications have worked, because it's not productive. And I want to keep this conciliatory, despite the fact that I was in a meeting last week that I had to specifically ask someone else to intervene because of the attacks that were coming my way. So I'm not sure collegially is the best word to use. But the fact is, we've been having meetings, and my specific direction from the superintendent was to communicate with Open Architects and TJ Plant, and that's what I've done all along. And then after I was criticized by the superintendent for not communicating directly with her, after I was told to communicate with TJ. And this is not meant to be in any way critical, but it's a fact that there's been tremendous instability in the finance office in the schools, and it's made it difficult. We've had stability and folks in our office consistently that have...
Still not a spreadsheet that included everything until April 30th. So even if you sent a text message to TJ about the
Mr. Vice Chair, this is exactly what I'm talking about.
It's the
I
truth.
really don't think this is, I just don't
It's
think
facts.
this is productive.
Yeah, I think at this point, we can just next time.
I have the floor. I have
I'm
the
sorry.
floor.
My apologies.
No, everyone calm down. I have the floor. I'm just trying to be polite. So I'm just curious. So did Open Architects know that there was going to be a shortfall and they didn't notify us? I'm just seeing where the disconnect is, and I'm just trying to...
Well, the disconnect is members of this committee continue to characterize the budget that we're providing
I'm just asking, why did we find out on April 30th? That's all I'm asking.
But it's not a shortfall. That number, whether it's 254 or 251, that's not a shortfall. I mean, you can disagree with that, but as you said, Member Pina, the number for net school spending is prescribed by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. And if we provide a number that meets that requirement, then that's not a deficiency.
Thank you. Mrs. Zach, was that all your
I'm just
question?
curious why we just
You're
found
not
out
going to
on
get a straight answer. Is that all your questions?
Well, for the record, I just want to know why we didn't find out until April 30th. And actually, this is not my first budget season. So usually we meet, and I've met with Mr. Clarkson, I've met with Mr. Rodriguez, previous administration. We started running numbers. Mr. Petronio used to come before us in late February, March, and April. Why are we doing this now at the 11th hour? I've been asking for 2 months to start doing what we just did on Tuesday. And I'm just floored that we're sitting here having to make these really serious decisions at the 11th hour. And how are we supposed to make these decisions at the 11th hour when everything is just being, we have deadlines we have to meet. So again, I'm just curious why the numbers are the numbers. I'm just curious why me as a committee member, I didn't find out till the 30th. So April 30th. So if Open Architects had known and they didn't tell us, I would like to know, like, if your office was communicating with them and they didn't notify us, then someone has some explaining to do as to why we just found out. That's where I'd like to find out. So, I would like to probably even reach out to Open Architects after we figure out what we're doing and see.
I sent a timeline of events of what happened.
I saw that.
And it
I just wanted
includes
to
when a
hear
text
it directly.
message. Okay.
So then to answer your question, when did TJ from our Open Architects find out?
I believe he received a text on the 15th or 17th, and then we were waiting for backup numbers because we hadn't received anything. And this is why I will not put the 800,000 back until I've seen it in a spreadsheet.
Okay. Is that all the questions that you have?
That's it. I just want clarification. Thank you.
We'll finalize around here. Mr. Pina.
As long as we're not going to have a timeout, I guess I can go.
If we behave, yes.
Yeah. Hey, Mr. Clarkson, listen, again, I want to be as you said, collegial as possible. So can we stop the arguments, stop talking about the past, stop talking about when we found out we are where we're at, and so we need to, I'm going to ask you, will you come back before us and actually go through the Schedule 19 numbers? We can't do it tonight, it's too late, but that's all we're asking for, is for you to come in, we'll set a table up, you can sit down, you can have Juan with you. He always looks scared when he's with you, but we can have Juan with you and just talk about it, and we can talk about it in the open. Because look, the foundational budget, the budget that we get from DESE, just agree, the city is not paying more than what DESE is telling us is our foundational budget, correct?
I've said several times tonight, and I stand by it, that number of $251 million is greater than...
Well, the foundational budget is 288.
Well, right, and from that,
correct,
make deductions based on allowable costs.
And that just goes back to my point, is it's really what we're talking about is the Schedule 19, because everything else is kind of, it is what it is.
Well, no, I would respectfully disagree with that. I think a huge bone of contention for this school committee has been the deductions for the pension costs.
No, I don't think it is, because there are employees. We know that. We know that well, hold on, Mr. Clarkson. I will say that from 2004, that law was in place, and it was never utilized. It wasn't until Representative Du Bois...
That's not true.
It is true, and she admitted it, because she even said that's what happened. So all I'm saying, it's fine. I don't want to go back and go over that again. All I want to do is I want to move forward. I want to talk about the budget. I want to talk about, can we sit down and have that conversation in an open session and stop the back and forth about everything else, because it doesn't matter, because we're dealing with people's lives. All right, and I'll tell you this, I'm an Army guy, and one of the funniest things that I ever heard when I was in the Army, when somebody would start telling a story, is somebody would just say, that dog don't hunt. And a lot of what you're saying, it doesn't have to do with the people that we're trying to make decisions on. So it doesn't matter. If you don't like us, I don't care. I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to do a job, and we just need to get past that. Why I'm the one, the conservative on this board, why I'm the one that has to say that, I don't know. But just promise us that you'll come back, we'll sit down, and we'll have that conversation.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rodriguez.
Mr. Clarkson, so there's a request for $4.6 million to cover the net. Where are those funds coming from? Does the city have it?
Well, before I answer that question, I haven't seen any figures that support the $4.6 million figure. And as we all know, the last several years, the way those costs have been addressed have been through an agreement between the city and the schools to pay some of those costs appropriately from other sources. So I can't answer that question until that actual number of 4.6 is substantiated.
Again, regardless of, that's what it is. Does the city have $4.6 million present to cover those costs? Yes or no?
Yes.
The city does?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, but you try to keep going on a gotcha, Tony.
There's not a gotcha. It's not a gotcha because the state gotcha. Because we were in those meetings, Troy.
We were.
Don't disrespect me saying that you weren't off by millions, because you were. And I have nothing to gain by saying that you didn't.
Let's maintain, please.
I want to, like the superintendent said, the trust is gone, but 4.6 million. So if that number is 4.6, I mean, what do we have in free cash? Is there a zero balance? Are you using all the free cash? Are you using reserves? Like the state, flagged that it's not a good practice to use those funds, even though lawfully you can.
I find it so deliciously ironic that you're asking if we're using reserves to balance the budget. Yes, we are, because we had to drain the reserves to address the school deficit. So are we using...
Under your watch.
And yours as well, sir.
Yes, it was.
And yours as well.
Page 141.
We're going to get off topic. We are getting off topic. I'm going to cease this discussion right now.
Timeout?
It is a timeout. Anybody else has questions?
No question. I think I just wanted to say to Mr. Pena, I think that since I got here, I have been asking about the Schedule 19. I've been asking for invoices, and I still have not received what we're paying back to the city till this day, just to let you know.
Okay. And I think this year, especially considering everything, we will be closely monitoring that Schedule 19 and having that discussion. I said earlier we had dates through the end of this month. We will keep those dates, and we'll send an invitation for us to discuss Schedule 19 as we keep progressing through our budget. And yes, Juan will be there too. I think we're good with questions for now.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Coxon. And I know it's always tough being up here. Tension runs high in this committee.
You know, Mr. Vice Chair, with all due respect, when it's frustrating.
I hear you.
From when I got on this committee to where we are now, to going through the deficit, me and Ms. Azak, and then having these meetings from health insurance to, you know, employees that don't work for us in the city, so it's in the millions of dollars. We have consultants, and we get all this information, and it's like it's still broken. At some point, you know, the community wants to, yes, come up to Massachusetts, come in and take over the city of Brockton.
No, I understand.
You know, so it's one of those things. I mean, those are my feelings, how I feel. I like to be transparent about that. You know, you can tell, but at the same time, you're ripping millions of dollars away from this community.
Mr. Vice Chair.
Because you're doing.
Done.
All right,
That's exactly what you're
Thank you,
doing.
Dr.
Thank you.
Clarkson.
I'm not the mayor, but you would be fired tomorrow.
Tony, we have tough decisions to make, and if it hits 12, meeting has to end because it's not posted. We need to move on to agenda item number 4, discussion potential vote reduction in force. Superintendent, if you want to tell us what you're asking, or members, I'm pretty sure everybody's on the same page. Understanding what we need to vote on. No, in understanding what we need to vote on. Okay. I know we're not on the same page as how we're voting, but what's your question? What's the confusion? So we move into agenda item number 4, discussion potential vote for reduction in force.
Sorry.
Yes, sure.
Do you want
Go
me
ahead.
to? Okay.
I was going to explain, but
So at this point in time, if the committee would prefer to break this apart, the item that is most pressing for this evening, because notifications for BEA need to be sent out on May 15th, which is tomorrow. So to vote on a reduction in force of 6 for the Brockton Education Association would be my recommendation.
Quick question.
And then we could wait for the rest for next Tuesday.
So under the BEA, who are they? What is the job title and responsibility?
So, hold on. So the list was in your document, but I can read it out. So we have 43 BEA positions. 12 of them were vacant already, and so that left 31. And so those positions are 1 bilingual math at the PLUF, 1 city resource at BBLA, the coordinator of community schools at Community Schools, ELA at PLUF, ELA at Edison Academy, ELA Social Sciences, ESL, at Edison Academy, ESL teacher. So, and as a reminder, the positions at Edison Academy are the 2 full-time positions. ESL teacher at Plouffe, instructional text specialist at Central, math position at West, math position at Davis, math position at Edison Academy, middle school teacher, 2 middle school teachers at BVLA, 3 vacant MSN teachers, 1 at BVLA, 2 at BHS, 1 MSN teacher at South, 1 at North, 1 at Ashfield, Champion, East. Again, those were, as we had stated before, there were some of these that we were making as a result of enrollment anyway. So those were ones that would have come before you anyway, but as the enrollment at the middle school level it has lowered, so we were course correcting for that. MSN SEL at Champion, a parent engagement specialist position at central offices. The SAC at Edison Academy, SAC at North Middle School, Science at Edison Academy. Those 3 are actually vacant right now. Social Sciences at East, South, and BHS. Social Sciences at Edison Academy, Spanish and Portuguese, school community liaison at Central. That is a vacancy, so we just wouldn't backfill that one. 6 associate principals, 1 at North, South, Ashfield, West, East, Plouffe. A teacher at Brockton Therapeutic Day School. The pre-K teacher, 0.5 position at the Community Schools Adult Learning Center, and the guidance counselor at Edison. Again, we went through those positions, and for those that are not vacant, for those that are already filled, and those people would then have, those that have seniority and bumping rights, when we went through that exercise of who has certifications and is appropriate to move into other positions, we are asking for approval for 6 reduction in force.
Mr. Pina.
The community schools, so those positions aren't under the non-net spending?
They are under the non-net, but we also, again, because they're BEA, they have to be notified tomorrow, and we also have to make cuts on the non-net side as well. So as a reminder, there was, we were supposed to receive 20.075 for non-net, and it's down to 18 in the sheet. And we were supposed to receive 254 for non-net, or for net, and that was down to 251. So there will, like I mentioned the other day, there will be other cuts on the non-net level that we'll discuss on Tuesday, but these are the ones that are most pressing.
And I know you mentioned we could do BEA separately if we wish, because their notice has to go out tomorrow.
Correct.
If that's the will of the committee, I would need a motion to remove the rest.
They have questions.
Go ahead.
So can you tell us what is the ramification if we don't vote this?
We will have to reduce force more in other areas.
Such as?
Such as VESPA, IBAANT, other non-union. So already, as I had shown, we have cuts that we need to make across the board. And so those will come before you, including non-union positions, IBAANT positions, and VESPA positions. So we would need to make cuts elsewhere.
Thank you.
You all set? Ms. Centello, say something.
I'm sure you probably said it today at some point. Why did the staff notice need to go out now? Is the timeline, is it that by law, contracts, district policy? Why now?
By contract. And it might be also law for not May 15th for teachers. I don't remember. I know it's in the contract.
To say that? Thank you. So, a couple of things. The positions that we're looking to do the refs at, have we brought in those principals to the table and at least discussed this with them, gotten their input? Because I've had a lot of people reaching out. And I know we have to have this discussion tonight with tomorrow's deadline, but I am not in support of this. I asked over a month ago. I wish I got a straighter answer a little earlier as to why we didn't find out till April 30th. But I wrote a quick statement, like I will be voting no tonight. I asked over a month ago because I believe the decisions deserved careful review and discussion. Instead, the committee is being asked to act on a significant staff reduction without the amount of time and transparency. I understand the financial pressure the district is facing, but I do not believe we have been given adequate opportunity to fully review alternatives, understand the impact of these cuts, or properly exercise our responsibility as a committee. Because of that, I can't support this motion that's presented. I have to put the kids and our staff members first. We have to find a way to make this work. The amount of people that have reached out to us, I know the frustrations, and I understand, Superintendent, but out of everybody here, I sat through many cuts, and I refuse to cut any more positions. We have to figure out how we're going to do this. We have to give our staff stability. That's the one thing we all always echoed for years. We've lost so many amazing staff members over the years, and I just hate to see some really good employees leave us. I'm only one vote. And I just can't support doing this, especially where we just found out about this. And I asked a while ago, and I get it. Maybe we didn't know till recently, but here we are the night before, and our first meeting was on Tuesday. So I just feel like there's way too many important decisions to be made with not enough time to meet with our principals for some of these positions. I've had many reach out to me, very concerned, because if we cut some of these positions, who's going to take over those roles? And it's going to add more of a burden onto other employees and in our staff. So, and who's going to suffer? Our kids are going to suffer. But that's just, like I said, I'm only one vote, and that's my position on it. Thank you.
Ms. Oliver.
Just to piggyback from Ms. Azak, this is very hard to swallow.
I think the person that was here basically didn't give us the answer that we deserve. I think it's unfortunate when you have people in elected office in higher position that basically doesn't value our educators. I don't care what they say, doesn't value our students. Because the majority of them don't sleep here. They don't know what our kids are going to. Some of us are parents. We know what our kids are going to. We have built a relationship with the staff at certain schools. I am grateful to some of the staff for doing what they've done to my kids, for my kids. And I know a lot of other parents feel the same way because I've been getting nonstop emails, phone calls. Sorry, I couldn't answer all of them. I am working. I am a nurse. I can't answer my phone all the time. But to basically take those position as an asset to our schools, especially when they were failing a few years ago. And because of those positions, behavior issue has gone down. Test score has gone up. They're fundamental. This position, some of them, our kids need them. Our schools need them. Desi is watching. And I hope Desi's watching to make a phone call to the CFO of the city and the mayor, because he ran a campaign that said he would not cut our funds to the school district. That was his campaign. That was his promise. I didn't vote for him, so I don't know. But he made a campaign promise, and I want him to stick to it because our kids deserve it, and I cannot vote on something that is going to affect our kids.
Ms. Centello.
I have a question and a statement, but I guess I'll have a question first. The question is, if we don't make a decision today and we don't send out the notice tomorrow, can you educate us and also the community, what does that mean? Like, what's going to happen with us as a district?
Unless the money magically appears, then we still have to meet that bottom line. So we would have to make cuts elsewhere. If we were trying to operate as if we're not going to make any cuts, because I don't know that this decision is going to be any easier for all of you or any of us, for BESPA or IBAANT or for non-union, and we just operate as if cuts don't need to be made, then what will end up happening is we will run out of money mid-year, and we will have to work with the unions to make a reduction in force mid-year. I will say I fully appreciate the difficult position you're in, and I'm sorry that you are in this position, and I own the part I played in you being in this position. That being said, I want to be very honest that we will probably talk about this for many, many months next year, and these will still be the decisions that are upon us next year when we don't have Student Opportunity Act funds, and they're going to be just as hard then. Because yes, we're all here because we believe that our school systems should be fully funded. And the thing that I do agree with Dr. Clarkson on is that the funding formula is broken, and that without the SOA, we are going to be dealing with cuts next year too. So, I don't know that that answers your question. I guess my answer is just we're not going to put ourselves in a better position just by willing it to be so. And that part of our role here is to make those tough decisions and to be able to say to our educators that yes, we do value them, and we apologize that we're in this position, that we are hopeful that they will stay and bump into those roles. And that hopefully one day the funding model will be improved, and that we will certainly do our part to advocate for that in the future, especially next year, because I will need all of your efforts to help advocate for keeping SOA, or for making sure that we are fixing the funding formula so that potentially we don't have to make those cuts next year. But I do believe that, this is the hard part of the job that you are elected to do. This is the hard part of the job that I am hired to do. But it needs to be done, and if you don't, there will be ramifications that I don't think are any prettier than what you're dealing with right now.
I wrote a statement about what this feels for me. I do want to say that tonight we're being asked to make some very difficult decisions during a very challenging budget season. Voting to reduce staff positions is not easy, and I want to acknowledge the impact these decisions have on our employees, students, and family. I've only been on the school committee for 5 months, and this is not the type of decision I hope I would have to make so early on. But as a parent, community member, and a graduate of Brockton Public Schools, I also do not want our district to repeat the mistake of 2023. The Inspector General report made it clear that warning signs were there, but difficult financial decisions were delayed too long. The report found that school committee members failed to properly perform their oversight duties, and that the district retained high staff levels rather than reducing the BPS workforce. One of the key lessons from the Inspector General report was the importance of taking early action when warning signs appear. For me, the warning signs are here, and we must learn from our mistakes of the past instead of repeating them. I too have received many calls, texts, and emails from community members about these reductions. I have listened, asked questions, and explored other ideas and options. But the reality is that these are difficult times, and every decision comes with consequences. Leaderships means making hard decisions, even when they are painful and unpopular. As a current school committee member, I believe part of our responsibility is making difficult decisions early so we can protect the long-term future and stability of our district. This is not a reflection of the value of our staff. Our teachers, paraprofessionals, and employees work hard every single day for our students. But after what happened in 2023, I believe we cannot afford to delay difficult decisions again. My hope is that the work we do now help stabilize our district, rebuild trust, and protect our future of Brockton Public Schools. So for me, what I don't want us is to go back to what happened in 2023. I know some of us don't want to make this decision. And I mean, again, I'm a parent. My kids go to school here. I graduated from Brockton High, but I also was here in 2023, and we all lived everything that happened. So I hope that we are gonna do our job, even though it is hard. I don't want to do it. I didn't want to be here today, but I'm here, so thank you.
Thank you.
No more.
Mr. Pina.
Yeah, so is there options, or if you said that it would be cuts in other areas, would those other areas be less impactful than what you presented?
I believe that what we are putting before you was the plan that we believed. I think every cut is going to have an impact. I think what we were trying to do was to see the least impact.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah, I mean, there's no, yeah. Yeah, the best of
It is
all.
tough. I can tell it's tough on you.
It's the best of all the terrible options. How's that?
I'm not going to make a long statement, but I will say that I don't envy the position that you are in to have to come before us and with these decisions. And to be fiscally conservative, I hope that everyone understood what I was asking the CFO. This is not the end. This is going to get so much worse next year and the year, and in 2030, we are looking at a literal cliff that we're about to fall off of, and I really hope that the city sees this and they do something to bring in revenue to help this so that we can offset that, because we get a budget from DESE that we're supposed to spend on our kids, and it is the unfunded liabilities of the pension and so forth that is going to end up taking over a lot of the budget, with almost 90% of it being salary now. We're going to have to make a lot more cuts. And so I hope that people understand that in these positions, there's always hard decisions to make, but this is not the end, and this is going to get a lot worse.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else? I'll share my piece. I didn't write anything this time, but if you could come and feel my heart, it's pounding. And it's just, I'm so serious.
I can't deal with liberals.
I don't want to make this decision. I didn't think I was going to make a decision like this. Best case scenario is we wouldn't have to. And again, we did not anticipate any of this. I do appreciate all the staff that we have, all the employees that work in our district. I do appreciate all the effort, all the time, the commitment. I'm a father myself. I have one kid in the system. I have a newborn who a couple of years will be going through the school system here. And obviously, cutting is not something that we take lightly or that we want to see happening. Besides just the fact that it impacts the education of our children, it's someone's career. It's someone's way of living. It's income. And again, I don't think I've had to make any decision that has been as difficult as this one. We've had decisions in the past, but nothing comparable to this. But as my colleagues have mentioned, it comes with the job. This really is an opportunity to say, this is one of the things that we signed up for. I know it's tough on the superintendent, but it's even tougher on us that has to make the final call. On that same note, though, again, we have to fulfill our responsibilities. And it's looking at, no matter what decision we make tonight, it's going to have repercussions, it's going to have an outcome. We delay it, it'll have a repercussion. We make that decision now, it has a repercussion. But then, how is that going to look like in the long run? And whatever decision this committee ends up making tonight, it's not a reflection of anyone's ability, skills, or commitment that staff of our district have put into the work that they do. It just is what it is. Mr. Rodriguez.
I just don't take this personal, but I just want to correct on your statement. In 2023, there was not a presentation of the superintendent or recommendation of reducing staff. So the difference between 23 and now, there was no options. There wasn't, you have to reduce this. But here you have a superintendent that's telling you this bargaining unit and that bargaining unit. And I'm pretty sure if that was presented to us in 23, the committee at the time would have took that. There was a lot of missteps on there. So tonight is looking at one bargaining unit versus the others. It's not to say that you're doing an overall or however the body votes, but in 23 to this, there was options. This one, there was no options. So I just wanted to correct you on that. So it's not something personal, but that's a misstatement on that when you classify this budget of reduction of force from there to now.
The point is you have to make a decision. It's not easy.
Thank you. Yes.
I make a motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent.
A motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion has been properly made and second. Is this a roll call or?
It is a roll call. I call for a roll call.
Okay. Ms. Azak?
No.
Mr. Pina?
Yes.
Ms. Oliver?
No.
Ms. Centello?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
No.
And I'm a yes as well.
Tie.
That's a tie. It fails. Is there a motion for reconsideration? The motion fails. Where does that leave us?
On the,
Yes, Mr.
nobody made a motion, so it's not on the motion, but just so that everybody fully understands, look, I don't want to make this decision. It is a hard decision, and I understand that. If we look at the big picture, which I hope everybody is, we're cutting 6 positions. If we don't cut these 6 positions, and if we don't vote affirmative to this, the result is going to be those that we just gave that contract to, those that are non-bargaining unit are going to be let go. So I hope you guys fully understand that any of the support staff that's there there's going to be much more of them let go because of the trickle down, because of the amount of that we're saving with the recommendation from the superintendent. I don't want to do it. I want to see our schools thrive and succeed. I do blame the previous mayor. I do blame the current mayor. I blame our chair. And I will say that. I've said it in public, and I'll continue to say it. We have to make a decision, and I understand it's a hard one, but when you start letting go of these paras, because that's what's going to happen, we're going to have to let go of all these paras. So all your IEPs are not going to have paras. All these classes are not going to have the support staff. So understand that I think that the best thing that could happen is we keep the associate principals, that we keep everybody there and we keep moving forward with our progress. But it is what it is. I mean, we didn't get a seat at the table to talk about the Schedule 19. We didn't get a seat, and again, I'm going to blame, I'm sorry, but Vice Chair, I blame you. I blame the chair, because you didn't give us a seat at the table. So it is your fault. It is the mayor's fault. And regardless of if you want to laugh or not, it's okay. It's nothing personal, but it is what it is. So if we don't vote on this, please understand the ramifications of what you're not voting on. I don't want to make the vote. I don't want the people to lose their jobs. I don't want them to be demoted. But when it comes down to it, what we're going to lose, you're going to see the numbers skyrocket.
And then the question is, and then what? Like, what are we going to do as a district? Are we going to go to another deficit?
Brief.
No, she already said. She said that in mid-year, we're out of money.
Right.
I'm not allowed to make a motion, but can I say something?
Yes.
There's no motion.
Is it possible for us to take a quick recess to speak to our attorney? Because I just have a question.
She here?
No, she's not. We'd have to call her.
5-minute recess.
I don't know, but
Yes.
Motion to have a 5-minute recess.
Motion's been made. Second.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All right, let's take a 5-minute recess. Before we do so, I just wanted to clarify, Mr. Pina, you had made the motion. Was it to take this collectively or just the recommendation for BEA?
So it was the recommendation of the superintendent. I did not specify.
Okay. Can we clarify that? Superintendent, would you mind clarifying?
I would recommend you not take it collectively and just pull out the BEA for this evening. We do have a meeting on March 19th, May 19th, next Tuesday. So I would recommend taking that one out and postponing the others till next Tuesday.
And that's because...
That's the 6th, correct?
Yes.
The 6th?
Yes. Well, first, is the first motion to separate it out?
No, we could just motion to vote on BEA and leave the rest.
Yes.
Let me I'm going to make a new motion.
Yes.
I make a motion that we separate out the 6 BEA positions, and we take the recommendation from the superintendent.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and properly second. All those in favor?
Roll call.
Roll call.
Roll call.
On the motion, this is a vote.
This is just for the separation.
Roll call.
On that, I have to recuse myself due to the fact I do have a relative that's on the BEA.
Yes. Thank you. A motion has been made and properly second. We'll do a roll call. Ms. Azak?
Reluctantly, yes.
Mr. Pina?
Yes.
Ms. Oliver?
No.
Ms. Centello?
Yes.
And myself as a yes. Motion passes. Agenda item number 5, other business. Is there any other business? Just, Superintendent?
So you could certainly save this for next Tuesday, but another recommendation or motion that will need to be made is to spend $7.2 million of the net school spending carryover that we received this year towards prepayment of tuition for next year as presented on Tuesday night. The rest of our budget is based on that, so if that were to not
Make a
be...
motion to spend the $7.2 million as recommended by the superintendent.
Second.
On the motion, that wasn't put on the agenda for a vote,
It was not, so I can
so
officially...
we'll have to add it to the agenda for a vote.
On that motion,
Yes, Mr. Pina.
or a point of clarification, can that money be taken back or any way, shape, or form by the city if we don't do this right now?
Hopefully not before next Tuesday, but yeah, hopefully not before
My
next
understanding was that they're going to vote on their budget, the city's budget on Tuesday. So again, I just want to make sure, is there any way that the city can claw back any more funds?
If you're asking me if I trust, yeah, I don't think they should. Well, I don't know.
May I make a recommendation? We can always suspend the rules if you really want to vote on that motion.
I make a motion to suspend the rules and vote on the recommendation of the superintendent.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and properly second. All those in favor?
Roll call.
Ms. Azak?
Yes.
Mr. Pina?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan?
Yes.
Ms. Santello?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
I'm a yes as well. It passes. Now you can make your motion for the 7.2.
I make a motion for the amount of money that the superintendent is about to say.
$7,286,530.87.
And then we take the recommendation of the superintendent.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and properly second.
Roll call.
Ms. Azak?
Yes.
Mr. Pina?
Yes.
Ms. Oliver?
Yes.
Ms. Santello?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
I'm a yes as well. It carries. Thank you. Just point of information, there wasn't any Schedule 19 meeting that I was in that I'm aware of or that any of you guys requested that I said no. As a matter of fact, most of the communication for Schedule 19 and the charges from the city has been communicated via email, and I've been very strong advocating that we get the backup documentation, superintendent as the witness. So I'm not sure as to what you were referring to as the Schedule 19 meetings that I have not sent out to you guys. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Since you addressed me, I would say that the lack of leadership to be able to have those meetings in public, or at least have those meetings, was what I was referring to, not the fact that you didn't tell us about meetings that happened.
On that same note, the meeting has to work with everybody. Unless, similar to what just happened with our budget, unless we get the information from who actually can provide and sit down and show you this is what we have, there's no meeting to be had. In any case, agenda item number 6, motion to adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? Second. Motion has been made and properly second. All those in favor? Any opposed? It carries. Meeting adjourned.